I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Education, March 24th, 2015, at 7 o'clock p.m. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Blakely.
Here.
Gaspar.
Here.
Moscato.
Here.
Locke.
Here.
Toots.
Here.
Hodge.
Here.
Dremel.
Here. Mrs. Blakely, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Hitchens, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
There are not.
All right, then I would, do we have to vote? I'm sorry, I can't remember tonight.
We usually vote to approve the agenda.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda with no changes tonight.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Impastato, second by Blakely. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the agenda is approved. We'd like to start with our celebrating successes tonight. I would first like to invite Amy Nelson up to the table to tell us about the outreach program. Hello, Amy Nelson.
Hello. Okay, thank you for having me here tonight. I'm very excited to come to you and to tell you all of the great things that have been happening within our school district. I was hired in August as a community outreach coordinator for the district, and I feel absolutely honored to be in this role. And I just want to say I'm so proud of our school district for not only caring about our students academically, but really caring about them as a whole and their lives and the struggles that they may have and the families' struggles that they may have, and doing something about it. There's a lot of districts that are doing what we're doing. So I am very proud of our district and really, really excited to share with you what we've done. So as my role of community outreach coordinator, I have two main roles, and one of them is to connect with our homeless families and families in distress, maybe financially or maybe going through some medical situations, and make sure that they're connected to resources within our community. And as you can see from this slide, we have had so many wonderful partners come up in our community who have stepped up and who have done so many things for our students. So these are some of our caring partners that we go to on a regular basis for needs that our students or families may have. And I'm going to share with you many of the things that they've done for our students. The second part of my role is to also help create programs for our Title I schools, which we have our extended day program, which meets 3 days a week and helps kids with tutoring by Batavia teachers. And then also we have started a new mentoring program. So we have one-on-one mentoring between high school students, retired citizens, and the students going on. So they meet on a weekly basis. It's a wonderful, wonderful program, and to see them working one-on-one and getting encouragement and support and help that they need is just amazing. So these are some of our partners, like I mentioned. And I'm going to run through some of the things to celebrate that our partners have done this year. These students and families are facing great obstacles, but they continue to feel cared for by our district and by our community and have hope for their future due to the incredible staff, amazing partners who want to see them find success, and resources that are being provided by our community. Our partners have helped to make the following celebrations happen for our family. They have helped provide school supplies for over 50 kids in need, and you can see from this picture, we had band students come out and help with our school supply drive at the beginning of the year. They've helped send 3 students to the kindergarten program in the afternoon to give them the extra learning boost they needed, contributing over $3,500 to see this happen. They've helped provide early childhood transportation for a preschooler in need of intervention. They've helped provide glasses for students in need. Our Lions Club have helped a great deal with many, many students in need of glasses. They've helped provide furniture, clothing, shoes, warm winter clothing, gift cards for gas, and food for families in need. They fed over 40 hungry families on a weekly basis with weekend backpack meals. Fox Valley Christian Church in Batavia every week packs backpacks for 40 of our families. And this would typically cost $488 a week, $19,520 per school year for 40 families to do. And to date, this is run solely on donations. And there's going to be a picture of all of the food for 1 week that you'll see on the slideshow as well. They've helped provide over 23 Thanksgiving dinners for families in need. They've helped provide holiday meals during the holiday times. They've helped provide financial assistance for families in financial distress. Many of our partners that were listed, like St. Vincent de Paul, First Baptist Church of Geneva, many of our area churches, they have helped to provide financial assistance for families that gas is going to be turned off or electric is going to be turned off. So we have partners that we can go to when I talk to a family who's facing that crisis, and they can help in that way. They've helped provide a record number of support for over 72 families this holiday season through the Adoptive Family Program. Batavia United Way, Chip In Batavia, the Batavia Women's Club, Batavia Mothers Club, Shop with a Cop, Access Toys, Tri-City Family Services, and our own BPS 101 staff community all came together this holiday season, and they were able to adopt 72 families, but within all of those organizations, they really helped over 150 families this holiday season. They've helped to establish tutoring and extracurricular activities for students in need to give them the extra boost for learning and developing their talents and gifts. These are pictures of our mentoring program that we have going on. I mean, look at the one-on-one interaction. It's just, to be there, it's just really precious. They've helped to provide forms of technology for students in need who don't already have it, maybe who are struggling with Wi-Fi access so that they can access their Chromebook. They've helped in that way. Chip In has helped to provide laptops for students before our Chromebooks came to be for students in need. They've helped to provide forms of tutoring for students in need. They've helped raise over $26,000 to purchase an 11-passenger van for the Batavia Apartments. This was a recent endeavor that came to be where the community just came together, and different churches and different organizations, our school district, Batavia Foundation for Educational Excellence, Chip In, everyone all worked together to help make this happen. So I believe we have a very special district and a very special community seeing all of these things come to be. So these are programs, like I mentioned, these are some of the things that our partners have done for our families in need. And this is honestly on a weekly basis. Every week, new students come up, new families come up, facing some really, really challenging times in their life. And I have the privilege of connecting them with our partners and making sure that they have the resources to be successful, and their students really have a chance to be the students they're meant to be. So I am so excited to share all of this with you, and this is not even all of it, there's even more. So thank you for having me up and letting me share this with you. I'm really, really blessed to be in this role, so thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Next, we'd like to invite Julia Schaefer up. We'd like to celebrate her success.
Yep, Steve Mastrzyski is going to get it started
All right,
for us.
I'm going to intercede here, supersede or intercept with Julie, okay?
All right.
So we have some special guests here tonight from the local VFW that I'm going to introduce. So Linda Richards, she's from the Women's Auxiliary from the 19th District, come on up. And Commander Andy Frankie, come on up. And Miss Ashley Schmidt, also from the Ladies Auxiliary VFW President. So they're here, as we all are, to celebrate an accomplishment of one of Rotolo's finest teachers, Julie Schaefer. So if Ms. Schaefer could come on up. can have my stop because I'm going to sit down in a minute. And Miss Richard, I believe, has a few things to say and some other things to talk about related to VFW programs and things like that, along with the program involved with Ms. Schaefer. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Linda Richard. I'm a retired Rotolo Middle School teacher who became involved in the program at the VFW when my son came home from Iraq. And he said, "But Mom, there's a little ladies group for you to join." I couldn't say no to this returning soldier. So here I am, now president of the 19th District Ladies Auxiliary to the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Commander Andy Franke and Ladies Auxiliary President Ashley Schmidt from Batavia VFW Post 1197 are here with me tonight to honor the achievements of my good friend, Julia Schaefer, 8th grade teacher at Rotolo, social studies teacher at Rotolo Middle School. To give you a little timeline of these events of Julia's achievements. September, after the national convention, I approached Julia to consider, I begged, please consider applying for the VFW Teacher of the Year. In October, I presented a nomination letter to Commander Andy Franke of Batavia VFW highlighting Julia's achievements and why I thought she would be a good person to nominate. Fortunately, they agreed. This lady spends countless hours doing programs for patriotism and veterans. Has the veterans in her room for the past 5 years. She has been doing Patriots Pen along with Jill Schultz at the middle school. Just a whole bunch of her achievements. She stays up till midnight so she can be the first lady to call into Cantini to reserve reservations for the whole 8th grade to go over there. She has artifacts from her grandfather of World War I. All the kids put little gloves on. You go in her classroom, they're in trenches for 60 minutes in trench warfare and the simulations.
Simulated.
And I was there when she was teaching that. I was cramped down with it, and it's quite uncomfortable. And I do need to tell you, I've seen her softer side also. I was there when a teacher at our school, when her son was deployed to Iraq. And she left and she came back and she opened up her classroom door. And there were stationary American flags, red, white, and blue flowers all over everywhere. This is Julia Schaefer. And I'll never forget that moment because that teacher was me. In November, Julia was presented a certificate and check from Post 1197, and her nomination was then sent on to District 19 to be judged against 25 VFWs in District 19. In December, we found out that Julia had won the district for Middle School Teacher of the Year. In January, at the District Voice of Democracy Award dinner, Julia received her plaque and check from the 19th District and was called back up to the podium. And it was announced that just that morning, the 19th District VFW had been notified that Julia's accomplishments had been chosen to win her the high honor of Illinois State VFW Teacher of the Year. There's 315 VFW posts in the state of Illinois, and Julia was the winner. In February, she was then in competition with 54 VFW teachers worldwide. Although she wasn't selected as the national winner, her name and Rotolo Middle School, Batavia, Illinois, will forever be cataloged as the 2015 Illinois State winner. And it's right down here that you'll get all this information. Julia was presented another big plaque and check for her accomplishment from the state of Illinois VFW American Chairman at the Batavia City Council meeting last week. Many of her colleagues and students attended to show their support and respect to Batavia VFW. The Batavia Ladies Auxiliaries will be hosting a spaghetti dinner fundraiser, and it's open to the public for our Loyalty Day Parade. And you don't want to miss this because Julia has a car in the Loyalty Day Parade. Also, the 6 Patriot Pen winners from Rotolo Middle School will be on the VFW float, along with the VOD winner from the VFW. Okay? Julia, we are so proud of you, and it's always an honor to congratulate you. This is a prime example of all the teachers I've ever known in Batavia Our community is so lucky to have this type of teacher teaching our children Americanism and patriotism. Next year, it is the VFW and Ladies Auxiliary hope to get more teachers and students involved in our programs. We have a coloring contest, ages 3 to 5, a poster contest for grades 1 to 3, essay contest, grades 4 to 5, of course, Patriots Pen, grades 6 to 8, and VOD for the high school. We also have a Young American Creative Patriotic Art Contest for grades 9 to 12. And when we go to the national conventions, that artwork is amazing. But I know the art teachers here at Batavia High School can find that same amazing artwork. There's Scout of the Year, continuing education for college and technical schools. And then again, there's Teacher of the Year. And it's our hope next year that we will win the 19th District Teacher of the Year for the elementary level, the middle school level, and the high school level. I've left some information about our programs with Jen Hicks tonight, with the wish they become incorporated in the Batavia education curriculum in support of Americanism and patriotism education. Again, Julia, thank you for all you do for the patriotic education of Batavia children and for applying for the VFW Teacher of the Year. Thank you.
Nobody ever accomplishes anything by themselves. I need to thank the teacher, first of all, the VFW who've been, they've just made this a really amazing experience. And he's coming out and I'm getting to know them quite well. And also Linda for the nomination. Your letter was just, I cried over it. It was just beautiful. Jill Schultz, who has been amazingly supportive and helpful. My principal, Mr. Massajuski, who lets me do most of my schemes. I come to him without
The trench worker.
and then I teach with an amazing group of 8th grade teachers that are up for all these ideas. I mean, we put the whole building schedule in a tizzy when we go to Cantini every year. And I work with just wonderful professionals that are flexible and willing to do these things. So, I couldn't have done it if I didn't have amazing students to work with. I mean, they wrote the Patriots Pen. They're willing, to sit and they love it when the veterans come or when it's an opportunity for us to raise money for the veterans. They enjoy doing that. And then definitely the 8th grade staff at Rotolo is so supportive because I could not have done any of it without them. So, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I moved to Batavia 11 years ago. I never heard of the town. I came from Des Plaines. The reason why we moved here, my wife and I, is because of the school district and the educators and things like that. I took command of Batavia VFW last year, and this has been the highlight of the year. I would like to thank Julia, Linda, and all the educators for that. And don't let her use mustard gas next year. Thank you very much.
I'll leave them out on the table out there, and Steve Massajuski also has some for every school.
Oh, good.
That
Flyers
get
for them.
Some flyers for them. If you know more, you know where the VFW is.
Yeah.
Of course, just give me a call.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
very much.
All right, now we all have to feel kind of bad for Pat Brown because he has to follow that. He's going to talk about energy management. Somehow that just failed a little. Welcome, Pat.
Good evening, everyone. Well, I'm just here tonight to report on a milestone that we've come across. Back in 2009, we engaged in a relationship with a company then called Energy Education, today called Synergistic. And through a series of cultural and operational changes that we've made, we have been reducing our reliance on electricity and natural gas to run our buildings, both through the need to provide gas to heat through boilers or electricity for cooling or for lights. So through that program year to date, we have actually achieved a cost avoidance of over $2 million. Since 2009, we have reduced our consumption by 25% over that course of time. We're actually trending even higher if you look at currently how we are operating. We are 30%, using 30% less of those utilities than we had back at that time. He couldn't be here tonight. I wish he could. He had a family obligation that he had to attend to, but a big part of that success has been the energy manager, Rob Schmidt. He has spent countless hours working to make sure that we are adhering to that program through constant monitoring of our systems, regular audits in our buildings, both during the day and many after-hour type audits. You'd be surprised in 1.2 million square feet of buildings just how many things are running at weird hours that you wouldn't expect it to. And he finds all those things and makes sure that they get shut down. And that's really at the heart of that program, is making sure that we're shutting down utilities when the buildings aren't in use. So really just wanted to take a moment to let you know, report out that we have reached that milestone this month, that we've surpassed the $2 million mark, and that we are doing well with that program. So.
Thanks, Bass.
Awesome. Yay.
$2 million. That's great. Next, I would like to invite Dominic Cotero up to the table to give us an update on the Batavia Fine Arts Center.
Hello, everyone. So, thank you. So we have a lot of fantastic, fun, exciting, educational, community involvement things that go on at the Fine Arts Center every day. In fact, the month of March, more events there than number of actual days. Thank you. Can I just press the arrow? Right? Theoretically. Great. Never used one of these before.
It's a little improv.
This will be great. Yeah, it's an experiment, social one.
Okay.
So the first thing I want to talk about are our interns. So we started an intern program 2 years ago, and this is also in conjunction with our touring team, which works with all of our touring shows that come through. So our students and our interns, there's a total of 5 interns this year, plus a touring team of an additional 5, so 10 students who are working on everything from district events to rentals to working with all the tours that come through here. And what a neat experience. How many students are going to be able to go away to college and say that they've worked with Ed Asner or the Osmonds or Ryan Stiles. They've sat at a light board and had Ryan Stiles tell them how to adjust the lights the way he likes them. It's truly an incredible experience that I don't know of any other district doing that for their students. So we're really proud of that. We also have a program for free tickets for elementary schools to come to the Fine Arts Center for some of our daytime shows. These programs were piloted last year, and we did it on a small level, and it worked very well, and we got great feedback from the elementary schools. And so far this year, we've given away 717 tickets to students who can come and see a piece of art at the Fine Arts Center at no charge, when those funds would have normally had to go to be spent on an arts field trip. We also, working with our students, we had a string workshop with one of our tours, the Hunts, and we had all of the high schoolers and all of the middle schoolers work with them during the day, and then during the show that weekend, the high schoolers actually were on stage with them and performed their hit single, Make This Leap. By the way, the Hunts music is now in Starbucks, if you want to know. So our tours, this is a compilation of the different faces or shows that you might have seen at the Fine Arts Center since we started doing that. This is just a small snippet of the things that we have done there. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the season ticket sales that we have. When we started this program, we started a season ticket sale. You can see our first year, we're right down there at $199, and then just slightly over $300 in our second year, and then this year, we were almost at that 350 range. So we have had consistent growth throughout time there. And now for our upcoming season, which has been announced. Absolutely fantastic season, full of excitement. We've got a little bit of some old things that people have loved, and we've got some new exciting things with our initiative in the arts world that are coming forth. One of the exciting things is Enchanted Evening. That's our season opener. That is an exclusive show that is being created and premiered at the Batavia Fine Arts Center. It's an aerial love story is basically what it is. So it's flight. It's the story of 6 people who go into a park and they walk out of the park and they're transformed and in love. So they may be on swings and then flying up in the air. It's live music, live singing, and live aerial choreography as well. Who's Live is coming back. Jeff Tracta, the gentleman in the blue background there, incredible impersonator. We have a video up on our website right now if you want to take a look at that. And then Well Strung, this is another one I'll mention, one of our most popular, not one of, the most popular tour we've ever had and the most requested to return. So last December I called them up and I said, I bypassed the agent directly. I went right to the artists. And I said, I want to bring you back, but we need, I would love for you to do something completely different. I don't want to do another pop show. Can you do a Christmas show? And they thought about it for 2 months, and they called me back and they said, we're going to do it. And because we did that, we have an exclusive this holiday season. So nobody within 75 miles of Batavia will have that show there. So that's an exclusive with us. Other highlights, we've got the original Broadway stars from Rent that played Mark and Roger in Rent. They were also the stars in the movie as well. But if you want to see or read all the details of those, they're on our website. Check them out. So here is a little snippet of where we are in terms of our rental. We are a very popular rental facility. And the only time that people don't come back to us is in the event that the organization doesn't exist anymore or there's no need for an event. A one-time speaker doesn't necessarily come back every year. That's why our return rate for renters is so low. And I say that quasi-joking because it's a 95% return rate. And most of the time, people rent from us, and the next year they're increasing their rental. They'll do one concert with us, as in the with Fox Valley Orchestra, and then in turn the next year they wanted to book 5 shows. This coming year they wanted to book more with us, and we had to turn them down because nobody has added dates to the calendar yet. There's still only 365 days. But this is a trend of our very first year to the second year, and then the third year at 136, and then we are currently at 124 right there, and we're projected to surpass last year's. And I do predict that next year is going to even surpass that a little bit more. But at that point, there'll be nowhere else to go. We'll be full. So this is a breakdown of where people are coming from to come to the Batavia Fine Arts Center. As you'd expect, 42% is from right here in Batavia. But then we have large quantities of people, 13% from Geneva, 7% from St. Charles, 6% from Aurora, and 3% from North Aurora, with a 29% breakdown of people coming from outside of those locations. Now that can vary from one person from each zip code, but the most popular of those zip codes are right over there, and you can see Elgin, Sugar Grove, all the way over to Naperville. And to give you an idea of what that might look like on a map, this is where Batavia lies. That circle right there represents Batavia. And without the extra programs and things we do for the area, the community, the region, that is basically the impact Batavia would have on our surrounding area. But with everything that we indeed do, you can see that our standard market is this blue, meaning people are coming to us consistently, monthly, weekly, from the blue area. A consistent market being the red, meaning they may only come 5-6 times a year. They're not coming once a month, but they're coming pretty darn frequently. And then we are seeing some high frequency from the green markets, which I'm calling emerging markets here. And we really have done very little advertising in those areas, but we are seeing, for some reason, a spike in those areas. So we're excited to see if those become red areas or where they go from there. An idea of how many events we hold on an annual basis in comparison to our district, our fellow districts around the area. I've been creating some baseline information, and this one pretty much sums up all the information as much as you'd want to see it. With West Aurora, St. Charles, and Oswego, we are the top line with 299 events. And then the nearest one is 199 events in Oswego. So we remain highly utilized by our district, by the community, and then with some spatterings of national things in here. One of the biggest elements that's different for us that we do is a lot of these other schools have their elementary or middle schools perform in there only on a desperation or as needed basis. So they might have 1 or 2 events in there a year, whereas we are hosting quite a few elementary concerts and middle school events and things like that. So that's one area that pushes us ahead as well. So that is a good wrap up of where we are in the Fine Arts Center in the conclusion of coming on the conclusion of our fourth year in existence here. So we're toddlers now. We're about to enter school, right? Any questions?
Can you just do a quick review, Dominic? Because the stuff you were showing us was amazing, but it talked a lot about what we were doing outside of just our students specifically. Can you just review for us how we determine whether we're going to use it for a district activity or whether you're ever encouraged or tempted to use it for something else first before a district activity?
So basically, we have a structure that allows district 100% usage of the facility should that be required at any given year. And how it works is the first week in September, we have something called District Priority Week. And that is the week where everyone in the district can make their reservations for the following school year. Not the school year we're in, the following one, because we do need to work quite a bit in advance so that we can take into account what everyone's doing. During that week, every date is reserved for the school district. So if every date were to be reserved for the school district, that's what we would do. That's how our calendar would roll that next year. It's usually not. It never has been, and quite honestly, I don't know that it ever possibly could. So once that week is over, that entire month of September is spent reorganizing and shuffling people around so that we get a calendar where we can accommodate everyone in the calendar at some point with their request. After that point, we open it up to our returning renters and then to new renters. And then we plug in any holes we might have with some national tours. Because if we're going to sit dark, well, we might as well not sit dark. If we can do something that's going to engage the community, that's going to embed us into the fabric of who Batavia is, and you know, whenever we have something going on, all the restaurants in town see a spike in sales and things like that. So it's just good community to continue having something. Did that answer?
That totally answered. Thank you. I think it's just, I love the fact that you spend so much time addressing district needs and then the creativity of plugging holes. It's not just that you blocked out the easy times to book and did that first, but said, okay, I've got all my district people taken care of, now let me plug those holes. So that's an effort greatly appreciated.
And even with those other things that are in here, our focus is always on the students being first, and how can we make this event be beneficial for students? Okay, so we have rentals coming in here. Well, can we get free tickets for our elementary kids? Yes, we've got rentals, but is there a way that we can also make it beneficial to our students? So we always keep that at the forefront of why we're here.
Awesome.
Do all of our schools take advantage of it?
Most of our schools have taken advantage of it. This year, one more school will be taking advantage of it that has not yet.
Okay, good.
That's great.
Hooverwood will be there this year with us, and it'll be their first time with their elementary concert in very shortly.
Okay, good.
Awesome. Thanks, Dominic. Anything else? Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Next, we'll move on to the public comments portion of our agenda. If anyone wishes to address the board this evening under public comments, please see our recording secretary, Kathy Scafidi. She'll give you a pink form that has our board policy for addressing the board. Please put your full name and address on the policy, as we are required by law to keep a detailed set of minutes for our meetings. If you would prefer to provide comments for the entire board in written form, there's a blue form that Kathy can give you. When you address the Board of Education or Administration will not enter into a dialogue on an issue. It doesn't mean we don't take your issues seriously. If you have unanswered questions, a board member or an administrator will get back to you regarding your matter at a later date. If you have any props or visual aids that you wish to use to address the board, please have those reviewed by Dr. Hitchens, our board elected secretary, prior to your presentation. And we ask everyone that wanted to address the board to please come to the table with the microphone so that everyone can hear you. Kathy, do we have all the pink sheets? Yes. All right, then I would like to invite Mr. Dinwiddie up to the table, please.
Good evening. I have about 3 pages of talking points I did up this afternoon. And usually when I come to talk, it's not good news. And it's going to be hard for me to talk about bad news after seeing all the great news I just saw about the outreach, about the job Pat Brown's doing with saving money, which I love to hear about, and of course about the VFW and the Patriot Spend program, which I'm a part of. The issue I'm going to talk about is the maintenance building, and I have like 10 issues, and I kind of put all that behind me and said the board voted on it, even though there was lots of things I didn't like about that decision. I was going to let that go, but something came up, and I just kind of feel it's my duty that we have to have at least the record set straight. And I see there's another candidates forum tomorrow night with the Chamber of Commerce. Although, having looked at the questions, I don't see anything particular that's going to bring up any debate about the maintenance building and the lease to the former board president of his property at $10,000 a month. So I'm just going to bring up one thing. When I went to the League of Women Voters forum on March 5th, a statement was made by the board president having to do that the maintenance building was under threat of condemnation. And so I asked for any records to that effect. And 18 days later, I have a report that there are no records responsive to your request. Quickly, I have the fire department records here. This is September 24th, 2014, revealed no violations to the fire code of the city of Batavia regarding Batavia school maintenance shed. 2013, revealed no violations regarding the school maintenance shed. 2012, revealed no violations to the fire code by the city of Batavia. 2011, 29. I guess my point here is I don't want the inspection people, the authorities. I've talked to the principals who do these inspections. I've talked to the Regional Office of Education. I don't want them to be publicly, in a sense, made the scapegoats for the decisions of the board, like there's something major wrong with that building. And at that point, I said I wasn't going to be a bummer because there was a lot of nice positive stuff said tonight. And I'll just leave it up to the next candidates forum to debate that or set the record straight on the maintenance building and the lease to the former board president. Thank you, Randy.
Usually we don't. At the end.
Yeah, can you at the end?
Okay.
Next, we are moving on to our partners in education. Is anyone here from VESPA tonight? No, I didn't see anyone. Then I'd like to invite Amy B. and Carey, our BEA president, to the table.
Hello.
Hey, Amy.
Hi, Amy.
So I do have to give a shout out to the BPAC because I was at the Fine Arts Center for 2 things in the last couple months, and I went to and they were both student related, both high school student related, because I went to the show choir final performance for 2 of my senior students. It was fantastic and beautiful. And also Our Town in the Black Box, which was great. So it really is student first there, and then the community, which I think is really nice. And also I do want to say we're really proud of Julia. She's also the Batavia Education Association's political action chair, so she is very involved with our organization also, so yay her. So I do have 3, or I've had 3 main goals this year with the BEA and the district, and they have all centered around collaboration, increasing teacher voice, and communication. So most of the things that we've been working on have gone into one of those, or more than one of those areas. And I did want to give some updates because we've been making some really good progress, I feel, in a number of those things. So I have like a little list, and I'll try and go through it kind of quick. But with our Curriculum and Assessment Advisory Council, the group of 4 teachers who are on that committee met to develop a method for feedback to get back up with all the curriculum review and curriculum writing. And we brought that to Brad and Kelly Karnick, and they were very, very receptive, and we're going to bring it to the full group next month, next time we meet. And I was just really proud of the whole process, and I felt really good about the whole process, so I wanted to throw that out there. And also CAC, along with the PLAC, the Professional Learning Advisory Council, who are going to be worked jointly this past month to determine what PD and training needs we're going to be needing for next year for the SIP days and for the Institute days. And we had a really good dialogue, and it was very balanced, I thought. And it was based on the initiatives, but also the teacher survey that the PLAC committee puts out and the needs of the actual people that are going to be getting the PD. So I thought that was great. And also, one more feedback thing, the K1 one-to-one proposal, I thought it was really nice because Lisa had approached us to talk to every K1 teacher in the district, and Tony Iglesias set up a really cool video conference. So all of them were in the same, they were all remotely, but they were in the same meeting at the same time, and then we took their feedback directly and then brought it back. So it was a really nice process. And the CEC, working with them in the spring, has been a really good thing too for the mission, vision, and values. A couple of updates on the BEA end. We've been working with Steve Pierce and Kevin Skomer to do a series of 90-minute trainings for student growth, and those have been very well attended. They had to close one down because it had 64 people registered at AGS. So they've all been really helpful, and the teachers are really appreciating them. And really right now, we're continuing to work on issues with time, trainings, curriculum, all the stuff that, you know, we have these pressures and they're not easy solutions. So, but things have been going pretty well. And then I have one really exciting announcement that I'm sure we'll probably be celebrating officially next month. But I found out this past week that one of the teachers at AGS was just chosen to be the NEA's, well, the Illinois version, the IEA's, there's an NEA foundation that does an Excellence in Teaching Award, And Jen Erickson from AGS was chosen as it's basically like the Illinois Teacher of the Year for IEA. So she's going to be recognized at the IEA Representative Assembly later in April. And then next February, she gets to go to a big gala, sponsored and paid for by the NEA in Washington, D.C. And they pick one grand prize, teaching winner for the whole country, and that person wins $25,000. Wow. So she may win, but and we're really, really proud of her. Very, very excited. I was so happy to hear it. So, pretty good news, really. I don't have a bad list. Seems like most people are doing great. So, thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Amy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Do we have anyone from PTO here tonight? No, then I would like to invite our student ambassadors to speak.
Hello. Okay, so we had a lot of track things going on this past weekend. The Batavia varsity boys took second place in conference, but first place on our side. So we got first for conference. And Peyton Piron set the indoor fieldhouse school record here in the 450.14 seconds. So we ran around twice in 50 seconds. And then Jay Hunt, who's a sophomore, he set the school record for high jump, which was 6'5".
Yeah. You can jump over Jason.
And then boys JV also won conference. And then both our girls JV and varsity won conference too. So it was a very successful track weekend.
You did very well. On the academic side, we wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Kettering. I'm not sure how many of you know this, but he helps a lot of young eligible voters get registered. He even puts it over the announcements for like a week during school, especially with the local elections coming up, including me. He's
I was going to ask if you're registered.
He's had tons of people come in, he helps you fill out the card and then takes it in and gets you all set up. It's a really nice way to get us more easily involved.
That's awesome.
It'll hopefully turn out a higher participation, we can only hope. And one more quick note, the BFAC is a wonderful facility. Everything Mr. Tero said is true. Performing there is an incredible experience, and not only performing, but just going to see something in there is incredible as well. And we hope that it continues to have the success it has over the past years. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
So that concludes our meeting.
Yeah, exactly. All the good stuff. The next item on our agenda is our consent agenda. The consent agenda is a method of streamlining our meetings by taking one vote on a number of routine personnel and business items. Each of the items is detailed in the agenda and has been appropriately posted in the board packet. Mr. Pierce, will you please read the consent agenda?
Absolutely. 5.1 through 5.4 are approval of meeting minutes from February 24th, March 9th, and March 18th. 5.5 is our monthly personnel report. This personnel report does include a couple of resolutions in there with multiple exhibits. 5.6 is the bill sign and invoice journal summary. 5.7 is the monthly treasurer's reports. 5.8 is our donations. We had a target donation of $948.54 to RMS from Target's Take Charge of Education program. We also had a donation from Wells Fargo of $230.76 to Rotolo to support their PBIS program. We had a number of FOIA requests this month. I'm going to take the time actually to go through and note all of those. Anne-Marie Corbett made a FOIA regarding purchase orders from January 1st of 2010 until the current date. Ron Reckenmacher had a FOIA request regarding the cost for the BFAC and the Fieldhouse from the 2007 referendum. Harold Dinwiddie, as he noted, he had several FOIAs. He had one regarding the 2014 auditor's report. He also FOIA'd regarding any employee or board interactions with the ROE or anyone else regarding the annual inspection of the maintenance facility. Additionally, he had a FOIA regarding communication records regarding the cost to put fire alarms in the maintenance building. He made the same request regarding for when the insulation was installed. And Carl also asked about, had a FOIA regarding any documentation to support the statement that the maintenance building was under threat of condemnation from any source. Michelle Lache had a FOIA regarding any non-contact related injury reports of any football practices at Mooseheart and/or any Batavia High School fields. Gene Miller had a FOIA regarding any payments made to Daniel Erap. And finally, Ron Reckenmeyer had a FOIA regarding any and all presentations on the 2007 referendum. 5.10 is the destruction of closed session recordings from August 27th of 2013, September 14th of 2013, and September 24th of 2013. Next, we have the 5.11, which is the IHSA renewal for the 2015-16 school year. 5.12 is the textbook adoption for AP Human Geography. I did want to note that this is the adoption process and that a book will be placed on display until our next board meeting. 5.13 is the Graphic Edge Under Armour athletic uniform purchase. I believe that's for the next 3 or 4 years. You can find out the specifics in there. 5.14 is the Fox Valley Career Center joint agreement. 5.15, we did have one overnight field trip. We had the International Club going on a field trip overnight to Chicago. 5.16 is the updated 2014-15 school calendar with 3 emergency days. Superintendent Hitchens did have inquiries if we were going to have a 4th emergency days the other day, but we did not, thankfully. 5.17 is the Microsoft volume licensing program. 5.18 is the telephone service contract with Clear Rate Communications Incorporated. 5.19 is the internet service contract with NIU Net. 5.20 is the web filter contract with Securely. 5.21 is our annual support contract for SchoolNet. And 5.22 is our internet service contract with Level 3 Communications. And then, of course, finally, or lastly, we have 5.23, which is the approval of the entire consent agenda.
Thanks, Mr. Pierce. Are there any items on the consent agenda for removal or for clarification?
I have a couple questions on the Fox Valley. Do I need to remove it to ask the question?
No, you can just ask the questions and...
The way it's worded, I just wanted to clarify that the costs we pay are just the costs for our students, correct?
Correct.
And that the director is the superintendent at Canelan, is that correct?
The board is all of the superintendents of the schools, and they have a director that's paid.
Okay.
He's not the superintendent.
Oh, he's not.
That's his title. He's the director of Fox Valley.
Okay, so it doesn't have anything to do with all the influx over with the Canelan superintendent?
No. So the superintendent sits on the board. I sit on the board. All the partner
But there's a
districts.
separate director?
Correct.
Okay.
He's an employee.
Thank you. I misread it then.
My only thing is I just want to make sure it's going to be clearly stated about the snow day makeups at the end and about how the seniors will still be done at a certain date because of how graduation is at Northern. And just to make sure everybody's not panicking about it because it happened like that last year. So
about the communication on it?
I just want to make sure that everything gets out there so seniors will have a few less days.
Right.
They don't have to make those up, but I just want to make sure everybody understands the built-in and all that. So other than that, everything else is fine.
I just wanted to comment or thank the boosters for their generous work, all the work that they do, and that program has been around for. I was fortunate to be able to work with them for a number of years in the past, and a good, I want to say, close to 20 years now or so. This is very, very unique among school districts that we can get a group that can come forth and put that kind of money into our athletic program and have the kind of uniforms that our student athletes are able to wear. many times they're hand-me-downs that have been handed down 10, 12 times over, and they're just, by the time they're a freshman or even maybe a middle schooler, they're trying to put together a team with 7 of the same numbers or so. But it's really a great reflection on how giving our community is, and that we're able to support our student athletes in a number of ways. You see how we do it in the arts. We see how we do it in the co-curricular activities, and I just want to thank them again for this continued program. It's really awesome.
Thanks, Greg. That's great. Anything else? Any other questions or clarifications?
I just wanted to point out some of the contracts for renewal that we had. If you didn't get a chance to read them over, any of the renewals, it seems that we're actually saving money on our renewals, which I thank the team for handling that. Definitely keeping fiscal responsibility with that and saving us some well-needed dollars, it seems, on important services that we have to have. So.
Good point. Thanks, Jason, for reminding us of that. Anything else? Then I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Hab, second by Locke. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Impastato.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Duke.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Drummond.
Yes. Consent agenda is approved. Next, we'll move on to items for discussion or information purposes only. We are going to have a plaque update.
All right, Colleen and I are here to start off, but we do have several guests from a couple buildings. If you don't like tonight's presentation, you can blame Tina Bleakley.
You will love tonight.
No, it's really great to have board members involved on our different committees, and Tina gave us some great feedback. So we're seeking to take that feedback and make it a part of tonight's presentation. So it'll be great. Sit back and enjoy. That's right. Listed up here is the plaque charge. This is what our group is charged to do. To make those recommendations to our superintendent regarding staff learning and training based on the curriculum and then the different mandates we do face. It was funny, Tina asked, what's the difference, tell us the difference between professional learning and professional development, what's the deal? And it's funny, I did a little research on this, and there is an interesting divide amongst educational researchers, shocker, right? Regarding that difference, when really they're very similar. But a well-recognized North American researcher, Michael Fullen, he actually said it's time to put the term professional development to bed and be done with it. So anyways, so for the purposes of this, we're calling it professional learning. But there's also a distinction between professional learning and professional training. And really there's responsibility as a school district to provide both of those to teachers. Professional training would be more of the prescriptive things. For instance, we have our new evaluation system that would really be professional training, where a lot of the different curricular things we do, that would be more of professional learning. So that's a little bit of that distinction. We have done an annual needs assessment the last couple of years, and we have actually now some comparative data, which is kind of interesting. So I did want to share a little bit of that comparative data with you so you can get a feel for what the staff is telling us directly about professional learning. The first time we did this last year, we had 250 respondents. This time we had 280 respondents, so it's a pretty good respondent rate. Last year, the most requested professional learning type of activity was for social emotional learning. This current year, and I think if you're an elementary teacher or familiar with the elementary curriculum changes, this will not surprise you. The number one requested professional learning was math, and supporting the different mathematical practices with all the change of the Common Core. We asked a question about the Danielson framework, which is our appraisal framework. And last year, the number one request was to learn more about questioning techniques. And again, that was the top request this year. I would say overall, though, with the Danielson framework and our appraisal process, we also see a lot more, we're seeing a lot more and hearing a lot more comfort with the process, because our staff have been through multiple cycles of that framework now, so that's good to see. Last year, there were a lot of requests for the Common Core math because everyone knew that was coming. This year, we had a lot of articulation days, which we received a lot of good feedback from. And so in our needs assessment, there was actually less, although it was still the highest, it was less than last year in terms of asking requests. So an inference we can potentially make is that some of that articulation has been successful. It's not perfect. We've certainly received feedback that we need more of that and more time, but we are making some progress there is an inference that we can make. Increasing student engagement and dealing with students who may not be as motivated or may not as engaged, that's a huge, and it was last year and this year, need for professional learning. And so, when we met with PLAC and CAC last week and we were looking at next year, it was really hard because we had to prioritize because there's a lot of things that we want our staff to be learning about. And I think it was Colleen that made it very clear, hey everybody, the feedback we've gotten 2 years in a row now is this increasing student engagement. So we are going to have to find a way, and we're working on finding a way to make that a priority for our professional learning for our teaching staff this next year.
And the needs assessment is really critical for teachers to complete. So we're thrilled to see the increase in the number of participants that are doing that. But we also want to make sure that they're seeing the feedback from us and what they're requesting. So that is the charge of PLAC, to provide those opportunities for the teachers. And we're able to say, you asked for this here, we're bringing you. So we're really trying to be intentional with what we are planning for them.
Yeah, we take the feedback very seriously. Developing high-quality assessments is very high on the list and is really aligned with a lot of our SLO work with student growth coming into the evaluation process. And I know that Brad's team has set up a lot of assessment training over the last couple of years for staff, and that's been very well received, and so we want to continue. We know how important formative assessment is in the learning process, and so we want to continue to ramp up our staff's learning for that type of training. Interesting, there's a question that we ask about when is the best time, and it's all over the place. There's release, some people prefer release time. Some people don't like release time because then they have to have sub-plans, so they feel like it's double work. A lot of people really like it job embedded, where it's as the day goes on, they're working with their colleagues. Others have an interest in having it at times when there aren't students in session, so like our school improvement days. And the number one way of how our staff seems to like it is they seem to like it workshop style, where they learn, they get to interact with their colleagues, plan together. That seemed to be the how they liked the best in the feedback we got. So that's a little summary of the needs assessment that I wanted to take you through. Moving on. Can you do it manually, please? There we go. Another thing that Tina asked us to share with the board were really successes and struggles, and that's one of the reasons that we're having some staff come in too, is that they can share what they've experienced, and good, bad, or indifferent. And again, some successes are we're offering a lot of opportunities for our staff members to get professional learning, whether it's during the school day, whether they're doing it as a professional learning, as a collaborative team in their professional learning community, using instructional coaches, which we'll talk about in a couple minutes, whether they're getting something after school, during the day, release time. But again, as I stated earlier, different staff want it at different times. They like it a certain way. And so therefore, it's not perfect. It's a lot like students. Students all have different learning styles. And when you look at adult learning, it's the same way. And so we have a lot of staff members. It's diverse. And so there's really not going to be a perfect way to do the professional development. But I think what we can continue to do is to offer a lot of different opportunities with the purpose of meeting the needs wherever that specific teacher or team of teachers is at. Time is the critical element. When you talk about all of these different curricular changes that we're doing, that are hitting our staff members from multiple directions, whether it's legislation or a directive from the school board, from you. Time is just a huge factor that has an incredible impact, and so we're always seeking more time. And so again, I think that you'll hear from some staff members from a success story that, yeah, we're getting more time. We really appreciate those math articulation days, but they probably piggyback and say, we could use more than a half day, we could use a full day. And there's costs involved with all of those. So again, we've made good strides. It's not perfect, but I think we're going in the right direction. And then again, like I said previously, the when and the how, it really varies teacher to teacher. And, we've heard great feedback from the technology side of things. You were all at the meeting that we had over at the high school with the walking tour, where some staff members stated very honestly that they didn't know what training they need until they're in the midst of it. So some of it you can't provide up front. It becomes something that has to be more job embedded and a little bit more organic. So it's really interesting to look at professional learning and what the research says, and then what we see practically speaking from the feedback from our staff members. Board support is huge. The time that you are able to provide for collaboration during the school day and then the different professional learning opportunities is huge. Again, we hear that over and over. So any support, and you are providing support for our teaching staff, is really appreciated. I know that I've heard a ton of feedback about the new calendar that you had a part in putting together and then voting on for next year, where we have those school improvement days built in. That is going to be huge. And again, there are multiple different groups that are vying for that time. And again, Dr. Newkirk did a great job last week with our joint CAC-PLAC meeting of really leading us through a process where I think all voices were heard. We really had to prioritize, and we have a good plan set up. We kind of have a skeleton plan set up for next year for those SIP days. So we're very excited about that, and truly from our staff members, they're very thankful that you were able to provide that time during the school calendar. It means a lot. We have a professional learning catalog that was new last year. You can read the registration data. Obviously, by the end of this school year, we believe that our registrations will pass what we had last year. And you can also see some of the new course offerings that we provided. And again, these course offerings, some of these are taught by outside people, but a lot of these are also taught by teachers or administrators within our own school district. So we're really learning from each other, and we would we hope to continue to see that grow and grow each year with the professional learning catalog. Coaching update. The coaching, we have instructional coaches now in 6 of our 8 buildings. There's no doubt that in each of those buildings that has an instructional coach, that the utilization of those coaches is increasing really day by day, week by week, month by month. And when there's an instructional coach now that's been there for a second year, there's a better relationship, there's more trust, and we're really seeing that use of the instructional coach is on the rise. 82% of the staff who use instructional coach see them as instructional specialists, somebody they can lean on and learn from and get ideas from. So it's been a very powerful, high impact type of process and strategy. We got some perceptions from teachers who have used coaches, and it's a 5-point scale, but 4.65 of our teaching staff, they have the perception that the use of a coach has a positive impact on their teaching, so their actual pedagogy, and 4.32 out of a 5-point scale have the perception of a positive impact of coaching on student learning. It's really hard to measure. We've done some research in our flat group. We've done a book study this year. It's very hard to measure the impact that professional learning has on student achievement because there's so many other factors involved, and how can you isolate that it's just this one thing or that one thing? It's really a complete package, but certainly our teaching staff have a very positive perception. Those that use coaching have a very positive perception of what coaching really has an impact on their teaching. Coaching is occurring in a job-embedded manner, meaning, and this is where it's really powerful, that the coaching strategies are most prevalent when teachers are co-teaching with the coach, co-planning with the coach, and that's really the heart of instructional coaching. So this is really exciting news. Again, I know that the board made a decision to invest dollars in this program. There's a cost involved, there's a staff cost involved, there's training that's involved, but we really believe that the coaching program is making a significant impact based upon the feedback we've gotten from teachers on the teaching process and the learning process of our staff, but also most importantly on the student learning of the kids that we serve on a daily basis. So we're very excited to share that information with you. So my portion is done. I get long-winded at times, I apologize. And now I'm going to turn it over to Colleen, who is going to introduce some different staff members who are going to share some things, because Tina really wanted this.
Well, there's a lot of plaque members out there, and they should stand up because I know your work is, I mean, I like working with you guys, and you work really hard, so you should.
Plaque committee, please stand to be recognized.
Where are they?
We
All
appreciate
right,
all
thanks for
of your
coming out and
members.
supporting.
This year, our Institute Day, that is the County Institute Day, the very last Friday in February, we did a little revamp work on it this year. I was approached by Dr. Newkirk to take the charge of looking into a more focused Institute Day for our teachers here in Batavia. And teacher choice has been something that's always been very valued for this day, so that teachers are able to go out and seek professional learning outside of our district if they choose. There's some wonderful technology workshops. There are some other specialist type learning opportunities for them, and we wanted them to continue to have that. However, this year we also started a process where we really wanted to do some nice internal things for our teachers, put on by our own staff or through someone else through the CEC coming in to do things for us as well. So staff had applied to do professional learning through a nice application process that the plaque committee created, and we had a very tight timeline that we adhered to this year, and we learned some things going through the process of the applications and reviewing them that will be examined again and reviewed next year. We were really pleased with the amount that were submitted, and tonight you're going to get to hear from some of the people and the type of professional learning that they engaged in that day. So at this time, I'd like to invite the early childhood team from Alice Gustafson to come forward. Jenny Barron, fellow plaque member, and Karen Nellis and Susan Jones are here to speak to you tonight to share their learning.
Hello. So as Colleen said, my colleagues and I are from the Early Childhood Program. I'm one of the speech and language pathologists from the Early Childhood Program. And my name's Jenny Barron. Did I say that twice? Jenny Barron, I'm a speech pathologist. Who are you?
I expected more, Jen. Okay, I'm Karen Nellis. I'm one of the 4 early childhood teachers. And show me the letter. Okay, and I'm Susan Jones. I'm also one of the early childhood teachers.
And what we wanted to talk with you about tonight is just a snapshot of our professional learning on the Institute. And I feel, as a speech and language pathologist, not a classroom teacher, it was highly valuable to spend time on the Institute Day with my team. In conjunction with Carrie Rue, our administrator, we were able to put together an agenda to work on our curriculum and really dig deep. I was pleased to be with my colleagues and go very deep in the extended amount of time we had to work on some of those concepts.
Our curriculum PLC has been focusing this year on creating a scope and sequence for teaching our 3- and 4-year-olds. And our program has grown into a blended model where we have general ed as well as special ed, and we have an increasingly significant ELL population as well. And early childhood is not really a grade level that has a scope and sequence. So in order to do this, we were using our 40-minute PLC time once a week to delve into looking at the Illinois Early Learning and Development Standards from the state. We were examining our online authentic progress monitoring system. And then we also interviewed and visited kindergarten and interviewed the teachers in terms of finding out what are the entry-level kindergarten expectations for Batavia School District, which is above the national norms for early childhood. And so we have these 3 revolving parts. And so what the Institute Day allowed us to do is to bring all those parts together into an alignment. And we made a scope and sequence for teaching literacy, math, and social emotional development for the district's youngest learners, the 3s and 4s.
So as a team, we are very eager to continue this process journey. And we're going to continue to work in our PLCs on Tuesday. And also hoping that we could get some more extended time. Maybe we feel like we're just at the beginning stages of this project, and our goal is to really have it up and hopefully ready for the fall to start implementing with our students next year. And another area that we also feel that would be essential for this whole process in the later stages is to get some, equip the 4 classroom with materials then to support the curriculum when we get to that end product.
And I think the other part you had talked about before too was just developing those formative, common assessments between all of our student populations that would lead us into making differentiated groups and developing interventions for kids to help close those gaps.
And so on behalf of the early childhood team, we know we've seen many of your faces, but we would like to extend a personal invitation for you to come and see professional learning in action in the early childhood program. It's very fun.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we'd like to invite the team from Grace McWayne to come forward. Chad Clary and Jill Merker will be presenting to you on guided math, followed by Julie Stresser, who will be sharing some reading information.
Nice to see some familiar faces. I think I'll start with the guided math part. We started in first grade team at Grace McWayne the spring of 2012 with the idea, and started researching it on our own time and tried some different lesson planning and organization of it, and put in a lot of time, our own time, researching it, like I said, and we were given time to go with Mr. Modiak over to Naperville to observe a guided math class being presented by a first grade teacher as well, which is very helpful. And then we, just through the last year especially, then all year, we worked before school, after school, weekend, weeknights, over our breaks, collaborating and working together to plan out what these lessons would be, how they would look, making formative assessments, summative assessments, designing lessons, preparing things, creating visuals, anchor charts, graphs that we would be using. And we did that, during our plan time, of course, too, and that's what that was for, which makes sense. But it wasn't enough, and so then being given Institute days to also use that for this was very helpful, especially since we don't just teach math. We teach reading, science, social studies, writing. So although we're putting a huge chunk of time into the preparation of math, we still needed time to do the other subjects and prepare for them as well. So, as I was saying, we also prepared then, we had a time when, Institute Day, when we presented to our staff on guided math. And we also had last year many, just about all of the other first grades from across the district were able to come in and observe and then talk with us as best we could, because we were teaching at the time, about how guided math was going in our classrooms as well, which was helpful for us too, as well as we hope for them. And we use PLC times also to collaborate with other schools and to hear how they were trying some different things, which was very helpful. And so that kind of brings us now to this year. So Chad's going to speak to.
In the district, the way that we were allotted a lot of extra time in addition to that changeover to the Institute Day that was spoken about earlier. There's a new model where we have Institute days that are set aside or half days set aside for us to have in-building or in-house work, and then time that we spend as a grade level working over at the high school. That new model has been great for all of us in a lot of different ways, in confirming what we do, in making sure that we're planning the best possible things for ourselves, but also across the entire school district. So we appreciate the extra time that's been given to us, that the district made possible for us, because we do feel that it is a great investment in that professional development among our colleagues. For the in-house days that we spend working within our own building, we align our curriculum for instruction. We use our formative assessments, like we mentioned with the Early Childhood Center program when they were giving their information. And we align those things with summative assessments that are created so that we know that our students are on track to maintain or be at grade level at the end of the year or beyond. We have a great Vimeo vote system that has been provided to us through our PTO and through the technology departments, which we utilize consistently. We work with technology and using iPads in our building to be able to help that filter into our instruction. The one-to-one initiative, which I know that you know a little bit about already. We look forward to that continuing to expand into the instruction that we are able to provide to our students. We research best practices, we watch videos, we read and learn. We've done book studies as a whole building with regard to how are the best practices of this guided math instruction being used. Those half days, again, using for gathering materials. There isn't a set curriculum that we use now with the Common Core. It's been a blessing in a lot of ways because it's opened up the opportunity for us to be able to expand and to try new things and find out what other creative teachers are using within their classrooms. So we try to find those things and explore them and use them ourselves. On the flip side, the half-day district-wide meetings that we have as a whole grade level have also been very profound for us. We've had 3 over the course of the year this year. The first one was in about September, where we had the chance to reflect on where we were at that point in that first unit of study that we were doing, talking about what the next steps would be across the entire district and reflecting on each building's journey for where they were at that point. The second session, we were breaking down specific needs that would be pertaining to the instruction for those mid-year units, as well as the electronic resources that we were being able to share. And the most recent one, and probably the most highly productive one, was where we took the Illinois School Board of Education sequence, scope and sequence, and broke it into the weeks that they had applied versus what we feel that we as a grade level were, what we were doing. So we were establishing a timeline, and then using that timeline in our day on that countywide institute day to find out with that new information where we sat in it as far as where we were and where we needed to go with our students. This half-day model that we're speaking about is fantastic, but it doesn't allow for us to have an opportunity to have cross-grade level meetings between ourselves in kindergarten or ourselves in second grade, which is important. And that's why we're most thankful that we're decided to make that adjustment to those 5 extra days that are the school improvement days next year, because we feel that that will be able to help us better align the things that we're doing within our grade level with our own building teams as well. So again, we're very grateful for what you've done to be able to provide those things to us. As Early Childhood mentioned, as soon as you leave their building and come over, please come over too. I really be in action there. But we also know that the allocations of that time that you're giving us not only are going to be profound for math, we also know that there's language arts that's rolling out, and we're going to need that extra time to work on the sciences as well. So I know Mrs. Strasser would like to tell you a little bit about reading in the district as well.
Hi, I'm Julie Strasser. I'm the reading specialist at McWayne School. I've been there for 14 years, and prior to that, I was a district reading teacher. I was very fortunate to be hired at a time when reading teachers were greatly involved in providing professional learning for literacy instruction. We offered book studies, summer workshops, weekly classes, county institute sessions, and before and after school gatherings. We regularly went into classrooms to provide demonstration lessons and ongoing support as our colleagues implemented what we knew were successful literacy practices. We researched, planned, and coordinated our efforts across the district, targeting the elementary schools and the middle school and high school when reading teachers were employed there. We balanced this while maintaining a caseload of students whom we met with daily in small groups. Our collective efforts led to teachers who continually refine their practices and thus develop strong student readers and writers. We maintained that commitment to our colleagues and students for many years because we did see the positive impact it was having. Professional learning is essential in education because teaching is an art. There's no scientific method to be applied and followed religiously. Teachers do consider themselves lifelong learners and engage in responsive teaching. While reading teachers are no longer involved to the degree we once were in organizational efforts at the district committee level to promote literacy, we continue to offer professional learning at the building level. For example, at McWayne School for the past 2 years during several faculty meetings, I have focused on the instructional practices of close reading and small group instruction. Teachers have read articles on these topics, and we've read The Next Steps in Guided Reading by Jan Richardson. Many of us have also attended after-school sessions offered by Christine Shepard, an instructional coach, and Elaine Modine, a Hooverwood reading teacher. We reviewed websites, searched for quality books and other texts for students to read and respond to, shared resources, planned and taught lessons, and reflected on those lessons. The vast majority of this has occurred during teachers' preparation time, lunchtime, before and after school. As this is only literacy instruction, and this is only literacy instruction, there's a great deal more in terms of content planning, as well as parent communication, materials preparation, responding to recent initiatives, just to name a few, that must occur in a timely and well-orchestrated fashion on a daily basis. While teachers have had a few opportunities this school year to work together during a part of the day, they've needed to write lesson plans for substitutes. While they are very confident, it's absolutely not the same as the classroom teacher being present. Therefore, building such valuable professional learning days into a district's calendar is ideal. Other school districts agree and do this. Historically, there's only been one day per school year where educators from across counties can gather together for professional learning and not leave their students in a substitute's care. On the recent County Institute Day, I attended a fantastic session at the Gail Borden Public Library in Elgin, presented by Kathleen Baxter, entitled Get Real, Nonfiction to Get Kids and Us Excited About Reading. She talked about 171 books, all published in 2014 except for 3, that supported multiple content areas and disciplines. It was very inspirational and practical. As I listened to Kathleen, I thought about the many conversations I've had with my second grade Grace McWayne colleagues who are writing Common Core units for ELA and are in need of quality books. I thought about the art and music teachers who would appreciate excellent book title recommendations to support their instruction. And I thought about the many reluctant readers I know who just might open a book called Stubby the War Dog, The True Story of World War I's Bravest Dog, or How to Be a Dinosaur Hunter, their globe-trotting, time-traveling guide, or How They Choked, Failures, Flops, and Flaws of the Awfully Famous. I very much appreciated the opportunity to attend a session outside the district. In Dana Goldstein's book, The Teacher Wars, The History of America's Most Embattled Profession, in Chapter 8, she talks about a Japanese management tool that was adopted by U.S. companies in the 1990s called Continuous Quality Improvement. Even Japanese schools are set up this way through a practice called lesson study. Teachers collaborate to plan lessons, observe one another delivering them, and then share feedback. Our Batavia teacher teams certainly plan lessons together, and many would be receptive of such an observation feedback model. Finally, consider some of the variables that enable students to learn well. Sharing background knowledge to support common understanding, providing time to converse with others, dividing up a project according to participants' strengths and interests, and utilizing high-quality resources, for example. These same variables are important to successful teacher learning or as it's more formally called, professional learning.
So these are the people that I have been blessed to go see too. I was someone who's able to go visit their guided math last year, and thanks to them, they kind of got me jump-started to be implementing it in my classroom. So thank you, Chad and Jill. And Julie, very welcome. We've also gotten some feedback from our middle school staff, and although they are not here in person, they did send us some statements so that you can see that they value the time as well. It was very valuable to go outside the district and have an opportunity to collaborate with other teachers and learn how other districts are implementing changes in curriculum. Our PLC worked together to develop an instructional unit, Common Core and C3 aligned on Vietnam, invaluable. And from our high school teachers, I appreciate the philosophy behind the Institute Day, but I would have liked to see a more consistent implementation of principles. I think what the district committee had in mind was not necessarily what was carried out. So we appreciate the feedback, both the positive and the negative, because that allows us to be part of that continuous learning process and make those adjustments when needed. And then finally, our last high school staff member said, very valuable having time to work with colleagues. We spent our day researching assessment methods and constructing tests using learned materials. So, as Steve had mentioned, our CAC and PLAC teams are critical to our successes here with our students and our staff. We jointly meet 3 times a year to make sure that we're having that collaborative conversation and so that we're aware of what the other groups are doing. And last week, we began to prepare for next year's usage of the sick days that you so At this point, this concludes our presentation. We'd like to open it up for any questions you may have.
I guess more of a comment. As I sit here as a board member and I remember making decisions on this, and whether it be relating to the calendar and the different committees that were being organized and plans for these projects. Not being an educator, I'm kind of like, saying, okay. And we're putting, it's kind of a leap of faith for us in that we're all saying, here's a collaborative effort we want to take on and see how it works. What's really cool is to see the positive feedback and the impact that you make. And you never know sitting here in the seat how it's going to come out or how it's going to turn out. And to hear this, just getting all this feedback is just really, really awesome. It really makes it all worthwhile because you never know. And like I said, I have total faith in the staff and the educational group that's here in this district, and seeing it all happen is really cool. I just wanted to say that. I
thank all of you because you all hired us. So we do owe our thanks to you. So, and for having faith in all of us.
Really, truly.
Well, you're very welcome.
I just want to say, being a part of PLAC, it's an amazing group of people, and you guys work very hard, and I know there's so many people that you talk to throughout the year to help you with that. And as I just want to tell my board members that if there's any questions you have for them, you can always email me, and I can discuss them at PLAC, and because I know it's hard to only see this group once a year, even though, I sit on the committee and I know Kathy sits on CAC, but if there's ever any questions you have for them, I'm more than happy to relay that. And I do relay what we do in our meetings. I give them summaries, but the work is amazing and there is a lot more to do. So I think continuing to communicate with each other on what the needs are and how we can help is just taking some great steps forward. So hopefully we can continue that.
We look forward to that.
I really like the inclusion of the person who said, it really wasn't quite what I expected. I love the fact that we recognize we'll try things and they won't always work, and so what can we do to fix it? I think that is a really important part of the process that CAC and FLEC both go through. Amy mentioned earlier that they're adding a feedback piece that they hadn't really thought about when they first put together their process. So I love the fact that, all educators are lifelong learners, and you're showing us exactly how that works. So I appreciate that.
And all of this is done above and beyond their day in the classroom.
Yes.
I'd just like to comment that we realize that the time constraints on you all are tremendous, and we appreciate all your time outside of the claroom that you put into it. And if we could create more hours in the day for you, we would.
Dominic's working on that longer.
We all wish for that too. We just keep another half hour. We say that to our students, and some would really genuinely like to say it. Yes, we do need, time is always a huge factor, and again, but we do thank you tremendously, because this will allow us next year to really be able to delve into some more of those curricular changes that are coming at us more quickly than we probably would like, but we're adjusting.
And that's something we can look at again. There can always be adjustments, and we can keep doing that. Done with feedback. So.
I think the best part is that the teachers are collaborating to get each other from one building to another building. And I like that part because sometimes one building can be isolated from another building. They think they're doing okay, and they might be, and another one might, same thing, just at different levels. And I like the part that maybe in the future down the road, the first graders, first grade teachers will talk to the second grade teachers and blend that in. So I think that has always been something that, as a former teacher, meeting with my other colleagues from the other buildings was always positive. And when we didn't have it for such a long time, you never knew what was going on, and that was the bad thing. So I'm glad this is going on right now, and kudos to everyone for working together on it.
And as Chad indicated, that has been something that's been so beneficial, especially with the math rollout this year. Having that time to collaborate across the district has really been a critical thing for all of us, and having that opportunity has been great.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for taking your time
Thank you.
tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for taking your time there.
Next, we're going to move on to an update on the digital learning plan.
So, the digital learning plan, it's interesting how three topics for discussion tonight are aligned, and in many ways it could follow on the celebrations, because I do know that there's some pretty exciting things that are happening in this district, and on a day-to-day basis, that you get stuck in the weeds and you're sometimes you're overwhelmed and you think about all the various things that are going on. When you take a step back and look and see all the great things that are happening, and this will follow on from what Steve and Colleen talked about in terms of professional learning, and I talk about will be followed on by Brad in terms of strategic planning. It all fits. There are interlocking pieces. They're aligned, and we're all headed in the same direction. And it's something to celebrate, because it takes years of planning and work to make these sorts of things happen. So tonight we're going to review the one-to-one strategy that we've implemented in grades 6 through 12. We're also going to talk about next steps for one-to-one in grades K through 5. But first, the review. How's it going so far? Well, first, before we get into the details, let's just recap what we're trying to accomplish. First and foremost, we're trying to give students more access to content and resources that better meet their personal needs, and offer more opportunities for feedback between them and content and their teachers. So in terms of assessment, helping teachers get a better idea of what students know and what they don't know, but also using those digital resources to give students immediate feedback in their learning, and helping them monitor their progress and take ownership of their learning. Because we know research shows that the more an individual takes ownership of their learning, just as in with professional learning, the more likely they are to succeed. Also, of course, too, the purpose of this technology really enhances collaboration, digital collaboration. Many people fear that it isolates individuals. It makes people, they're in front of screens, they're not necessarily communicating with one another. It's just another dimension to collaboration, and actually our results show that collaboration, true face-to-face collaboration and feedback between students and between teachers is actually increasing. And I'll share those results in a bit. But of course, our outcome is really to help students foster those 21st century skills, the critical thinking, creativity, communication, those sorts of things that are so important, those skills that are so difficult to teach. It's not simple content. We want to make sure that folks have them. And how we do that is through innovative instructional practices. And so we have used what we call the Pilser survey, the Partners in Learning School Research, which is based on research, a body of research. It's called the Innovative Teaching and Learning Practices. And it looks at the frequency of instructional practices in the classroom that are student-centered, that focus on personalized learning, that help students extend learning beyond the classroom so it's more authentic. So instead of writing a paper or doing an assignment for a teacher that the student is just simply going to display to a teacher and turn in, we find that the research shows that the more likely that they're to do assignments that actually get them out of their classrooms, not necessarily in a physical sense, but maybe in the virtual sense, to work on real, authentic problems, they're more likely to engage in that learning and learn more. And of course, technology helps do that. It's not an answer, it's not a silver bullet, but it certainly helps do that. And the more technology that's available in the classroom, the more likely those innovative teaching practices are going to take place, and the more likely that they're going to be frequent. And so the biggest barrier that we face is access to technology in the classroom, and the whole purpose of this one-to-one strategy is eliminating access as a barrier. And I use the word strategy very deliberately. It isn't a program. It isn't an initiative. It doesn't come with a lot of baggage in terms of expectations and dictations for teachers. It is simply an instructional resource just like any other in the classroom, like the chalkboard or whiteboard is on the wall, just as paper is in the classroom, just as the textbook is in the classroom. It is a resource for teachers and students to use, and use however they see fit to improve student learning. So I mentioned, we're looking at these innovative instructional practices, and we use this Pilser survey. This is the third year we've administered the Pilser survey, and so the 2015 administration of this survey is really looking at the first semester of the one-to-one strategy implementation, even though we have 3 years of data for that. So we have an excellent baseline. The survey asks teachers for the frequency with which they use instructional practices that center around student collaboration, so students working with other students to learn. Self-regulation, so students using strategies that help monitor their learning and take ownership of their learning and understand where they are in a learning process. To personalized learning, which includes differentiated instruction and allowing students to set their pace and path and have some decisions in what they learn and how they learn it. To extending the classroom beyond the walls of the classroom to the community, working with partners and experts in the field and around the world, and global awareness on global cultural issues and real-world problems. And so what you see here are the increases and in some cases decreases in the instructional practices around those categories that I just described for the middle school and the high school over the course of the last year. So we're proud of these. These represent increases on a 5-point scale of 1 to 5, where 5 meaning that they happen every day and 1 meaning they never happen. But in the very first semester of this rollout of this one-to-one strategy, these are what I consider to be very positive, very promising gains in terms of an improvement in these instructional strategies. And of course, too, what we've seen more of in this year, and it's not because of one-to-one, it's because of all the other things that are happening with professional learning, with peer coaching. We've seen the biggest increases in teacher collaboration than we've ever seen. So PLCs are taking root, coaching is taking root, and professional learning is taking root. And this is another resource to help them do that in terms of one-to-one. Largest barriers to using technology in the classroom at Batavia High School and at Bertolo Middle School. 22% of our respondents at the high school say that there isn't enough professional development. That's they're saying that that's the largest barrier to using technology in the classroom. And at the middle school, they're saying insufficient time to prepare lessons. Now, at the middle school, that's 27%, but that's down by 23% this year, which is pretty substantial. High school is up 2% this year in terms of professional development being the largest barrier. So before I move on, any questions on the one-to-one strategy in terms of our progress thus far?
Did that increase, or that 22% non-professional development, was there any, they elaborate on what
Yeah, I was
that is, or
gonna say,
where,
would
what, you
delve
know,
into
what,
that.
what is it that they need or that they're looking for, just?
Was it a certain subject area?
So the question asks, there's a series of barriers. There's 9. I couldn't rattle them off the top of my head, but there's a series of barriers that include, do we have enough computers? Do we have enough time? Do we have enough professional development? Does the software support our curriculum? Those sorts of things. And it's asking for, what do you consider to be a significant barrier to integrating technology in the curriculum? And this is the highest. At these respective buildings, these are the biggest barriers. So 22% of our teachers said not enough professional development at the high school, and 27% said insufficient time to prepare lessons at the middle school.
Steve, do you see that being something that Plaque would delve into as to, what they're looking at or what that, because that didn't seem to be a particularly hot topic when we talked about the SIP days or any of that.
No.
And it wasn't high on the,
And it wasn't
high on the needs assessment.
It wasn't high in the needs assessment. The math and that's the assessment, engaged students, that was the stuff that stood out. The technology side of things.
I don't remember that showing up at all during the Plaque
I think it
meeting.
was in relative, because when I talked to you about this today on the phone, I think you had to look at it in context of the other survey questions.
Okay.
And so this survey does definitely have a technology lens. It's not asking other questions about what else is going on in your school. It's asking about, it's about instructional practices and sound and research-based instructional practices, but it's not asking about it in the context of other things that are going on.
But even like you were given these like 9 choices, and the other choices were almost like not an issue. So if you had to pick one, this would be the one you would choose.
Could this also be interpreted as a comfort level for some until they get more and more immersed into it and understanding how to integrate it into their own learning? So they're saying, well, maybe I need PD versus, well, each day you learn more and more ways. And if you look at from the first day you utilize it to the end of the year, how have you increased it and utilized it? As opposed to just a snapshot of, maybe there's still some hesitation in there, and I don't know if I really fully implement and utilize this.
When did they take this?
How about throughout the whole year? Yeah.
January. I would say the old mindset was, teachers always felt as though they were experts on all subjects when they stood up in front of a class, and now with technology that's impossible to do. And so there's a certain level of anxiety that goes along with it, that you're never really going to master all the concepts because it continues to evolve. And so, I think that, you put this in context. We had 22%, or actually I should say 20% last year said there wasn't enough professional development before we implemented one-to-one. And there's a 2% increase, and so that's...
And the fact that they had to pick one and that it didn't show up on the Plaque needs assessment kind of makes me say that you had to pick one, but it's really not a hindrance to what they're trying to do.
You can pick multiple in this case, but this was the...
Right, but maybe there weren't that many barriers, is kind of my point.
One of the ones was internet access.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Not a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just something to kind of keep our antennas up to see if it shows up again, and we'll address it if it does.
I did share this recently with Steve, so we're going to take this and discuss it.
Thanks, Tony.
So next steps for K-5. So the board, last time we talked and we did the technology workshop, the board asked us to survey our K-1 teachers to see where they stood in terms of their readiness for devices at those particular levels. And each of those that voted, not a single one voted no. I'm not sure that means that they're necessarily ready, but they're prepared to move forward. In our pilots, though, I should say our pilot in first grade, it's become clear that while our original plan was to have 2 devices for every, or I should say 2 students to every device, our pilot and our experience is saying that that's not going to work out as well as we thought. Because with the technology, although multiple students can log into a device, they can only log into one device. And so the device they log into, that's the one they have to use. They can't log into another device and have that profile follow them. And so what happens is when teachers are dynamically grouping based on whatever subject they're teaching or whatever the individual students' needs are, they might need to move them between groups. The devices are limiting them in how they form their groups. And that is really the essence of what we're trying to eliminate as a barrier. And so we really need to have a device for each student at each level at this time with the way the technology is available now. So the other thing was we realized we've been using Chromebooks quite extensively at the elementary level over this past year. And Chromebooks are a better fit for second grade than tablets. Just because of the form factor, and they're learning to type, they're learning to read, they're learning to write. They don't necessarily need that tablet, and the Chromebooks are a more productive device for them. They're also more economical, and it's just an overall better fit. So we'll move forward with, we will recommend that we move forward with Chromebooks there. And there's some talk about devices going home, but the plan is right now initially that all devices will stay in school, and it will be a school level decision at some point in the future as to whether or not they might go home.
For K through 5.
K through 5. It's cleaner that way for now. Of course, as we step into this and learn about all the different nuances, we'll just keep them in school for now. So here's a breakdown of the plan in terms of the number, the quantities and the costs, and of course these are all very approximate at this point. We don't have solid numbers in terms of the device costs and whatnot. We're firming those things up, but we will have final costs for you when you make your decision in late April. So tablets in grades K1, Chromebooks for grades 2 through 5, and a charging cart or shelf for each classroom. And of course fees in grades 6 through 12, roughly half of the costs were offset by an increase in student fees, $75 per student per year, and we would likely recommend the same model moving forward for K-5. Questions?
Really appreciate the way that administration went out and partnered with Amy to ask the question that we really felt like we needed. We were very sensitive to all of the things that are rolling down on our elementary teachers, and it really heartens me that seemed extremely collaborative, where Lisa sent out the initial communication and Amy was able to be the owner of the data feedback, so it was a very organic and very clean way to gather that data, and so I really thank you for doing it that way.
Well, we really appreciate the BEA working with us. It worked out really well. We tried some new things that we haven't done before, and I think we definitely have some new communication technologies that we'll be using moving forward. I think that will kind of model the way, so it was exciting, it was fun.
Good. Thank you, Amy, because I know you have 8,000 other things you're doing, so. Excellent. Any other questions? All right, then we will be moving on to our strategic plan revisions. Again, just for discussion.
Yep, this is our last item under the discussion part of the agenda. We've been working.
You sound lovely, Donna.
I know, thanks. We've been working in the district to revise our strategic plan. The teachers have been providing feedback in the administration and different stakeholder groups on the existing plan. We've made some tweaks, and the board is the organizational principles of the board, the foundational principles for effective governance. One of the principles says that you are supposed to monitor our performance. So it's important that we have a strategic plan that's measuring the things that you say are important. And so it works hand in hand with the strategic plan. And for that strategic plan, we do have 5 goals currently that are up on a poster somewhere in all around the district. And that we did revise those slightly, so we wanted you to look those over. These are strategic goals that we want you to look over. Brad will walk you through that, but they're not targets yet, because we know that these are strategic goals, and we know that things can't be measured easily with one number saying that, yes, we met that one goal. So they're more lofty goals, and then we'll have targets within the goals that will show that we're making progress towards meeting our goals. And so we want you to answer a couple questions tonight, and we'll continue the discussion in April. We're not done yet, but Brad will walk you through giving your feedback.
Sure, and I think tonight's a good example of hearing from staff members that staff members are ready to go forward, and they're moving forward. And I think their biggest question is, where are we headed? They're ready to go there. They have an idea of where it is, but they're looking to the Board of Education to set that clear vision about where are we headed in the next 3 to 5 years. And the strategic plan is the board's way of communicating with all of the stakeholders, both internal and external, about where are we going. So We're going to give you some information tonight about kind of a little recap. We're going to talk today specifically about the goals and the indicators and the measures that are potential, and then what the next steps might be in this process. But this is really important, I think, for the staff that I talk to, the principals that I work with. Give us a roadmap, and we will hit those targets for you. As Dr. Hitchens talked about, the mission statement is not one that we're proposing a change to. I actually believe that always learning, always growing, we're actually starting to realize the full scope of this mission, because it's not just about kids, it's about the adults in our system, it's about our community members as well. Our entire community, really, that's what our mission is about. So I think that we would not recommend any changes at this point to that mission, because it's a very clear mission that people gravitate towards. The vision is something that you've seen before. There are a couple of parts to the vision statement. This has gone out through a series of feedback loops. We've had meetings and focus groups with probably hundreds of staff members and different groups that we've taken our vision statement to. We have a core writing team that drafted an initial vision statement based on our old vision statement and then took that out. I can't say that there's probably one part of this that has not been revised based on the feedback that we've gotten from all of these focus groups. So they've taken their feedback and crafted what you see here, which is our current vision statements. It has 4 bullet points under students and their learning, our commitment to students and their learning. 3 statements under collaboration, and 3 statements under continuous improvement. You'll notice that in typical mission, there is a mission, a vision, and values. You'll see that in our draft right now, we don't have value statements because they're deeply embedded within our vision statement. So you can see the district values by looking at where we hope to be in 3 to 5 years through this vision statement. So you can firmly see some of our values that we had in our old strategic plan. The belief that all students can learn is clearly in our vision statement about continuous improvement and about student learning. So you won't see separate value statements as a part of this draft so far. Some of the new stuff for the board to give us feedback and direction on would be our goals, as Dr. Hitchens talked about. They're very similar to our previous goals with some changes. Strategic goal number 1, student learning, to ensure maximum development, growth, and achievement for all students. Please know that each word under there is very purposeful in its intent. It is about student development in many different areas. It's about their growth and it's about achievement. Strategic goal 2, the learning environment. It's important to have a supportive environment to foster that learning. Strategic goal 3, the quality staff. Not to suggest that we don't have a quality staff, but if we don't invest in continuing to develop our staff, and this is not just teachers, but all of our staff, then we won't achieve that vision. Strategic goal 4, partners in achievements. You'll see this is a tagline in getting our parents, our parent community to really know about student achievement, and that's really this goal here is how can we connect with partners both inside our district and inside our community and outside of it to partner for our student success. And then strategic goal 5, resource responsibility, previously fiscal responsibility. And that's about using our resources wisely to ensure that we can reach that vision. So I'm going to go through each of the goals. We have proposed indicators and measures, and we're asking for the board's feedback as we craft these. Each of the strategic goals has indicators, which would be, I would describe them, Cubby would describe them as the big rocks. These are the big pieces of getting us towards that goal of student learning in this case. The measures are some measures that we currently have access to. We have baseline data. There are other measures that we're looking to bring on that we think might be more effective in measuring progress towards this goal, but we don't have those things current right now. So the indicators for student learning would be that students are growing, that students are proficient, that students are college and career ready, and that students are closing the achievement gap. Under students that are growing and students are proficient, we're relying pretty heavily on NWEA MAP data. For students that are college and career ready, we have baseline data about our high school seniors with post-secondary coursework. Post-secondary coursework is a definition that we've used that looks at all post-secondary. So it includes dual credit classes, advanced placement classes, also students in CTE courses that have reached a capstone course in that particular strand. So if you're looking at a student and they're in to business, have they taken the capstone course, the highest level course in our business offerings? Or if you're looking at someone in food service, have they taken the capstone course? Because that's going to be their best push-up into that world of work. The percent of students meeting all 4 college benchmarks on the ACT, and then...
Can we add on the ACT, because I was going now, where are we measuring that again, because I couldn't remember.
That I should put that in there?
If you don't mind.
But it
ACT
says
benchmark.
Okay.
possible indicators.
Right, but that's the only one we're looking at right now, right?
So you want us to clarify that CCR benchmarks?
That's what we're pulling from right now, because we mentioned MAP specifically. Yeah. For those of us not in the biz, sometimes we forget.
Any questions, comments, concerns about this first goal?
So these are your goals, so do those indicators, if we report back to you regularly about those, are they telling you whether or not students are learning in Batavia? Can you think of anything different that you would like reported instead of these?
Do you plan on using MAP for a long time?
For the foreseeable future, it's our only growth assessment. We'll start to get some internal measures that our teachers are developing through our curriculum that might be better, but they're untested at this point.
The only thing I want to ask about, and I don't know if this would go into this area, but after we had the community, we had that workshop, Jason, you were on that group? Mm-hmm. I'm missing the name of it right now. The advisory committee. There was a lot of conversation about like the Fox Valley career, and not necessarily just the AP courses and honors courses. So how would that, making sure we're keeping track of those students and the career readiness, right. And right. Not just students who are focusing on the fast lane. So maybe it should say post-secondary experiences instead of the highway. I just want to make sure that that's somehow recognized, that there's a lot of students out there. So post-secondary experiences for that bullet maybe would touch on that, because that's what our intention was. Okay. That we would be encompassing different pathways for students. So if they did, if they had an interest in fire science, are we connecting them post-secondary to that experience? So if we changed it from coursework to...
But the fire science is still coursework, isn't it?
It is, but maybe an internship with... But that's what that's what post-secondary coursework is. That's what the intentions were behind. Okay, correct.
Yeah, to capture both the college-bound and the career-bound students, to making sure, because if you're going to go from high school to the world of work, we want to make sure you're prepared for that world of work, which means in our programming that you've made it to that highest level course.
Right, and that will be measured that way. Okay. So to play that forward then, if that was the indicator in the measure that we chose, we would bring you some baseline data, and if we found out that only 40% of our seniors are enrolled in post-secondary coursework, then we would set a target for, let's have 60%, and then we would need to look for those experiences for the students if they're not already getting them. Okay.
Yeah, how would you get that career feedback? The colleges send us back, and we've seen statistics about how many are enrolled at Waubonsie in the top 10 colleges or whatever.
Like how well we're doing.
Yeah, I mean they're out in the working world. How can we really? Is there a way to get that
self-report?
Yeah, I mean,
some sort of.
Yeah.
There's not. They're actually quite expensive. We did for a number of years. It's called Life Track surveying of postgraduates. It didn't really yield any information to us. We do get feedback from community college and the Illinois state colleges about the success of our students in their programs, but that's capturing some of our kids, not all of our kids. So it's difficult once kids leave the system to track, did we really prepare them?
Do we know the percentage, by any chance, the percentage of students who go to a junior college and then finish up at a 4-year? Do we have that?
Oh, you're tracking after?
Degree
By any chance? Okay, just
It's
curious.
becoming more of a national and community college. That's how the community colleges are being funded now, is by degree completion. So our kids making it through community college. And so we're hoping to get some better data tracking on where kids go in that path after high school, but those data systems aren't there.
And this will be somewhat dynamic, right? Because as time goes on and we get different measures, we'll be folding those in and be having conversations about what might be useful or more valuable for measuring as we do these assessments that you're talking about.
Right, I think that the purpose of this is that we can bring you regular data for the board to look at and for the community to look at to know how the district is doing. And then as we get new measurement systems, we can make recommendations to the board, or if there are continuing nagging questions that you have like these, we can find data systems to help support some answers there.
Do we get some of the, maybe the career information as they become seniors in the latter part of that year that they've not planned on going into a career, say a college setting or whatever, that the counselors or whatever, that, hey, this individual is already pursuing this career, or, you know, maybe working part-time at it or whatever, you know, is that an avenue that you could utilize?
It's self-reported, but we do ask all of the seniors to tell us about their post-secondary plans.
That's actually a good idea, because you always give us a breakdown of the universities. It would be interesting to know those who are not attending university, what their career,
You can reported that to us?
Not because there's a very small number.
Right, I know.
Who don't
But there are students self-reported data about what they're doing after, so you probably have more kids going into the military than self-report going into the world of work.
Okay. That's a good question.
But we can give you the full spectrum of college and career or military as a part of that data package.
I'm just wondering, the people like who are on that career path, like who go to the Fox Valley Career Center, would it be correct in saying that they might just go on to Waubonsie then for further education?
They might. More often, it's probably going to a trade union.
A trade, okay, some kind of trade school there. Okay, because I think they.
For the first one, students are growing, since they take the math test 3 times a year, which one are you using? Are you using them all? I mean,
we use fall.
Maybe it's just the Impostado children, but they're like this. Depends on what time of year it is. So you're just using fall, spring?
We track it in the winter because it gives us a good benchmark of where kids are at, and it helps schools and school improvement planning processes, but our overall big picture is fall to spring. Goal 2 is the learning environment. There are 3 indicators here: student behavior, student satisfaction, and learning experiences. Here we have student behavior. Obviously, well-managed classrooms benefit student learning. So you can see 3 indicators, 3 measures there, successful interventions, crime truancy, and suspension and expulsion data. Student satisfaction, we do give 2 separate surveys, an internal and then a required 5 essentials survey from the state of Illinois, which gauges student satisfaction and climate and culture within schools. So we would use questions from those existing measures to report back on student satisfaction. Also, the % of students involved in co-curriculars. When students are involved in co-curriculars, they often report higher levels of satisfaction with school. It also keeps them more connected to the school environment.
What's an intervention?
For students, we have interventions that we provide to students in terms of their behavior. So we might have, these are pretty limited at this point, but like decision-making groups and whether those groups actually pay off for students. Check-in, check-out is another intervention.
So the N means they're like in-school intervention? Like
They're just successful in their intervention, in whatever intervention.
Is there an extra in
They're
in there?
successful in their interventions.
Yeah, it's a,
There's only one.
it's
Oh,
not
okay,
like an
okay.
in intervention and
Gotcha.
out intervention. It's just in
was some
Successful in
intervention.
getting out of
Special
their
term.
intervention should
Right.
probably be the term.
How are you determining percent involved in co-curriculars? I'm assuming you're doing that on an actual student basis and not on a, like, we got 500 kids doing extracurriculars and it may be the same 500 kids, we're adjusting
That
for
would be
that.
student by student.
Okay. I see. And what in the world is frequency of student collaboration? How are we measuring that? Is this
That
kind
actually
of
comes from the PILSR survey, would be teacher-reported data about student experiences.
Okay. That tells are so useful.
Yeah. Can I bring that up at this point, that
How they like
PILSR survey?
school?
How often in the classroom does instruction involve student-to-student collaboration? How often are they engaged in problem-solving activities that are problem-based learning activities, which
Okay.
give students novel and real-world problems to solve using the content of their class?
So I heard from a couple board members about some of the measures when they had questions for me, and I hear Sue wanting to talk about the survey. In the, once we, finalize the measures that you find to be important and we set the targets, then I've heard interest on the part of a couple board members that we set some low-end threshold of return rates. So we don't always have the best return rates for some of our surveys, but if these are the things that you want reported on, then we will make sure that we get satisfactory return rates, whatever those might be.
Yeah, I think we need to set a benchmark. If we're going to use a survey, it needs to have a certain return rate.
Yeah, and John had brought that up. That's a really good point, and I'd kind of forgotten that we talked about that.
I was gonna say something, but she beat me to it.
Sorry.
We listen to you, John, and we value what you say.
I mean, and that's why I didn't say anything back to the digital learning, because I don't know what the percentage was.
Right.
From, if some teachers felt they didn't need to respond to the survey because of the books, and it could have been a lower number, and I think this is where we might have to work with BEA. So, Amy's in charge with them, is that they gotta make sure that when some of these, sorry, picking on you, Amy, but some of these surveys that go out, how important it is for us to get that benchmark to us. And if it needs to be done during a PLC time or something, I know some of them could be lengthy, but I think that
And maybe on our end, we could look at how
if
many
it's a
surveys
certain
we send them and
percentage, that's what
eliminate
we
some
need
of
to
them if
have.
they're not all necessary.
Well, and I think the
Yes.
fact that
That survey, and that
Yes.
raise the percentage.
Yes.
Right, and I was going to say, Amy has spearheaded so much teacher feedback and collaboration and a really, I think, solid understanding that this is a district-wide vision and a district-wide strategic plan. That I think moving forward, if we said these are the things we're measuring, I'm going on the assumption that teachers are going to value that because they're recognizing they have supported this, they agree to this, and if that's what we need to measure it, that we can probably work on that.
Just so that you know, the participation rate for the PILSR survey was an item that we talked about at the tech workshop. So I added that into the final report, the N, and the N for the high school is 40%.
Okay.
The high school is 40? What was the middle school?
So roughly maybe 7%, a little less. 45, 37.
No.
No, 40,
Okay.
40 solid.
40%.
I think anything less
But
than
when you look at
50% is not good.
165 district-wide.
So, I mean, that's the only point I was trying to.
But I think it's a really
understand.
good point.
And we can work on that.
Right, because if we're using something that nobody's responding to and we're taking that as our measurement, it's
Right.
probably not very,
Okay,
all right, good point.
thank you.
Anything else on learning environment? Any other indicators or measures?
The learning experience, the collaboration, that comes back from the staff, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I just,
On that
is there a way
Based on that
of, yeah, is
PILSR
there a way
survey
of,
that nobody answered.
again, maybe this goes back to the student learning
Well,
part.
60% on it.
The students' input on collaboration, I mean, their perception of it might be slightly different. Not a social hour, but I mean, how, interacting with other students, some value that much more than others, and I'm just curious, do they have a way of putting that feedback?
There are ways to do that. It's not something we currently do, so I didn't put it on the list of something that I could show you some baseline data for the board to set some targets. So, but it's something definitely we can take a look at. I think it's really important to tap into a great resource, and that's asking our kids.
I'm just
about
thinking,
that.
because all the college readiness, career, there's so much more into team building that, more and more projects they start to do it as in a collaborative effort. I just wonder what their feedback and how they respond to that.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was good.
Quality staff satisfaction, similar to the students. We do an in-house and then a required 5 essential survey. Professional learning, you saw some of that data today. One of the measures that I probably should explain more is the aggregate 4D, 4E ratings. Each of our teachers is rated on 19 different components as a part of our appraisal plan. One of the domains is domain 4, which focuses on professional responsibility. 2 of the components within domain 4, 4D and 4E, focus on professional learning. One is an individual's growth in their profession, and the other is their growth with their team of teachers. So we can look at that in aggregate ratings there, which would be on a 4-point scale: unsatisfactory, needs improvement, meeting or proficient, or excellent. And we can report aggregate data in progress, how teachers are being evaluated in those 2 areas.
How do you define taking a leadership role?
That's one, we have a lot of data and I have some ideas, but it would be one that we'd have to work with the association on determining. We have lots of positions out there that people fill. What are the leadership? And then just counting up the percent of our staff that are involved in those leadership roles.
And so in something like that, Brett, are we going to be then setting benchmarks again so that, because obviously 100% can't take leadership roles, so there would probably be some number that we think would be reflective of.
Say it comes to our benchmark data, comes back and 35% of our staff are in leadership roles. So then the board can say, we'd like to see more than that. So let's look at increasing that by 5% over the next 3 years.
And you would be defining leadership with the BEA?
I think that's probably the best way to do it. There's literally hundreds of stipended and other positions that our staff hold, but defining which are those key leadership positions,
And
I think we should do with them.
If staff is not valuing that those are leadership roles, then there's not really any point in measuring them, so.
I see the words collaborate and communicate in this section, and I think that's just going to be key to these 4 indicators. I mean, everyone's going to have to really work together to make sure that this is happening through, I don't know, through plaque or, and I know surveys, we cringe, but I don't know, I mean, we have to figure out how to communicate with staff, to administration, to the board. Right, to make sure that we're meeting quality staff, that they're, that these are being measured.
What about a measurement of administration and staff collaboration? Is that something we talked about? And I know I've said in all those meetings, and I don't remember us talking about it. I probably should have brought it up before, but it just struck
Team
me.
effectiveness surveys, we don't have those completed yet, but we're working in that vein. And the administrative and association are our team, so.
Okay.
I think we can eventually get to measures there.
Okay. That just seems something that would be valuable. We say we value it, and there's some really obvious ways we can see it happening in the classroom, but there's always that sort of management staff divide that exists, so just measuring that we're actually bridging that divide. And so Amy brought us some really good examples of how you've been doing that, and so it seems like something valuable that we would keep talking about. Here are some examples of how we're doing that and really doing true collaboration instead of just the appearance of it.
And the presentation tonight is a great example also.
Well, this is not just teachers, it's all staff.
Right, but I said we don't have an administrative component in there that we're measuring necessarily.
Support staff.
Goal 4, partners and achievement. When we look at this one, I think this is something that Batavia really values. I think this board values partnering with educational institutions. We're going to talk about the STEM school and partnering with them. They value our partnerships with our community, with our business community. These things are represented in our indicators here, but it's very hard to measure these things. We just haven't created measurement systems, but I think there are things that we can do to better measure, but we've given you some very, I would say, rudimentary measurements of partnership at this point, but it would definitely be a growth area for us to find better measures for these indicators.
That's the big key, because I know, especially with communication, I think I think Sue is doing a great job, and you can definitely see the difference in our communicating to the community, and it is out there, but yet I still keep hearing that that's a problem. But how do you, I mean, it's out there, but how do you can't make people read what's out there. And that's always where we're going to get stuck, and we're always going to get accused of not communicating. But we know we're communicating, it's just a matter of getting people to read what's out there. So I don't know, I don't know how you measure that, because it's being communicated in many ways.
Right.
But we're still...
But if we didn't manage to capture that one person in the one way they wanted to be
and they're going to be dissatisfied, they're not going to be satisfied, and then, so that's going to be tricky. We might have to work on that.
I think this is definitely a growth area. It's something that, again, I think we've said this is something that's really important to us. It's a strategic goal that we put up here, but measuring it is often very difficult.
Right, because that is a goal of ours. We've worked really hard on improving communication. Huge. And again, some still see it as an issue.
Well, some don't hear what they want to hear, so that's the issue.
That's
I don't know
true.
if I can measure that.
Yeah. That's just a comment.
So that would be goal 4. And then the final goal, fiscal responsibility. You've talked about the fiscal piece here, and Chris can talk more about that.
I can say that.
But making a clear measure of the school district financial profile and the subscores for that. Operationally, looking at a benchmarked operational expenditure per pupil, so you can see how we compare to other districts. Time barriers to instruction comes from the Pilser survey, but this is something that we feel is an important indicator. It's hard to measure, but time, as you heard from many of our staff members, is the big thing. So how can we better measure the barriers to our time to focus on instruction, and then also looking at instructional resources through instructional expenditures per pupil. We give the board and the community an idea of how we're doing in resource responsibility.
And the school district financial profile, again, was the measures that we talked about at the workshop, Chris?
Correct. And the operational and instructional expense per pupil are also calculations derived from our annual financial report.
Oh, that's right.
So they are normed by the state, and
They're all
then very easy to
objective objective
very easy to
measures.
benchmark against who we decide are our peer districts.
Makes sense.
So based on your feedback, I have a few notes here to recraft some of the measures, especially, but none of the indicators. I will bring back to the board in April, and this will be kind of concluding this refresh of the strategic plan, some baseline data, and then we would ask the board a question of where would we like to be as a district in 3 to 5 years around these measures. So that would be the board purview to take a look at that baseline data, set some targets or parameters for the strategic plan, and then that's when the real work begins, and that's where teams of teachers, teams of administrators would look at what strategies are we going to use to get there, and then create specific action plans with responsibilities.
I think you've done a great job of covering all the stakeholders. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
how are we going to make sure that we're setting realistic expectations for where we want to be in 3 to 5 years? I mean, obviously, we're going to have to find that balance between guidance from administration, because you're our education experts, and high expectations from the board. Is that just sort of going to be an evolving conversation that we go through?
I think it's going to be evolving, because you're going to see regular updates on our progress. And then you can say, well, we're not seeing any progress in this area, why not? And then we can give you reports about what we're seeing in those particular areas. But I don't think you should see setting the target as kind of a drop-dead target.
Right.
But this is where we'd like to see more growth. It's really giving us direction about where can we employ strategies and action plans in order to improve in those areas. So it's not kind of we need to get to 90% or else. It's really, we'd like to get to 90%, work towards that, in that direction, and we will give you regular updates in that manner.
Okay.
Let's not follow the path of No Child Left Behind.
Well, that's what I'm saying, John. Right.
Every year it went up 7.5% or something, and then at some point it's got to be 100%, which was unrealistic. Let's have some common sense with this and just take it easy and see what
Right.
happens.
Yeah, and that's my concern, is I don't want it to be
Make course
unrealistic.
corrections as you go
Right.
along.
But I also don't want us to give the appearance of, oh, whatever you think it should be, just set it and we'll follow. You know, so there's obviously a dynamic conversation that needs to occur, and I feel a little bit like, oh, that's slightly out of my realm of knowledge to say that's where we should be for exactly what John just said.
This gives us, when you guys set targets, it gives us a good idea of what to invest our time and resources in as well, and where we need to give support to our staff in order to get there as well. So I think it's an important step to set those targets. And then it also answers, you know, earlier this year we reported on how do I know how my student is doing or my child is doing. And then we talked about how do I know how my school is doing. This dashboard that you're creating really gives the community a picture into how do I know how the district is doing. And these measures and the targets will change, I believe, over time. It should be a living document, but it gives the community members here, both our teachers, our staff members, and then our community members, an idea of how the district is doing when they look at these measures.
Excellent. Any other questions, comments? All right, now we're moving on to the action portion of our agenda. First, we're going to have the policy committee report.
Okay, policy committee met last week, and we have two things we would like you to vote on. The first is we would like you to delete policy 2190, which is mailing list for receiving board material. The legislation that required that policy no longer exists, and so that policy has been taken out of all of the references in the press document that you guys used to set your policy. And so the policy committee would like you to vote to delete that policy. And then the other action item under this report would be policy 740, non-public school students, including parochial and homeschool students. This is the third time that you'll have seen it. We made some changes last month. We talked about it at the policy committee, and John and Sue were excited that we would be voting on this one, and they're okay with the changes that they see. So those are the two things that you're voting on. There are some things for first reading. 610, educational philosophy, that came out of the Citizens Advisory Report, and we would like you to look over that recommendation, and that would be, we'll be asking you to vote on that in April. School year calendar and day, it's the holidays, there's that we're not quite up to date on that. You can look over that policy to see which holidays that we seemed to have overlooked, some of the designated holidays. And we also would like, the way that the press was written said that we had to celebrate that holiday on that specific day. So what was a good example of that, where we would maybe not celebrate it on that day, but sometime throughout a student's time with us, we would talk about that particular honor. What was a good example of that?
There's a million, like,
So many.
Erickson Day.
Right, Christmas Day,
Recycling Day. So the commemorative holidays, that we wouldn't necessarily celebrate those on that day.
Wow.
But as a natural part of the curriculum, and at some point.
And then administering medicines to students, the nurses, Lori Carbonell has asked that we review that one as well.
Any questions on those policies and those recommendations?
And then finally, the Citizens Advisory, that's okay, it's not a vote, but it is, we feel that that report is ready to go out to the community and take the follow-up steps that were recommended in that report. And that is it.
Questions, comments? All right, then I would entertain a motion to delete policy 2190, which is mailing list for receiving board material. And I would also entertain a motion to, in the same motion, to adopt policy 740, non-public school students, including parochial and homeschooled students.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gaspar, second by Blakely. Kate, please call the roll.
Blakely?
Yes.
Gaspar?
Yes.
Indesato?
Yes.
Locke?
Yes.
Stutes?
Yes.
Hodge?
Yes.
Stahl?
Yes. Okay, one policy deleted, one policy adopted. Moving on now to the organizational meeting of the Board of Education.
You have a very specific policy about setting a date for the organizational meeting of the board. And it says that during March of an odd number year, you will set that meeting, and this is March, and this is an odd number year. And we asked you to pencil in a date, but this is me asking you to officially take a vote and say that March 5th would be the seating of the new board.
May 5th.
May 5th.
May 5th.
Traveling back in time.
May 5th, I would recommend that you set May 5th at 6 o'clock for the organizational meeting of the board.
And I believe this is the only work we're doing that night, or the 3 things listed?
Correct. So what, at that meeting, we would seat the new board members, we would elect the officers and members, and then we would fix the time and date for the regular meeting. So I also wanted to get your feedback about that. So as you could see tonight, there was quite a bit on the agenda. If we did go to a 2-meeting a month in the evening format, that we could try that for next year and eliminate the policy and the finance, because part of our discussions were if we all wanted to see that information, and if we set a committee, we can't all participate as much as the 2 committee members. So we would recommend, based on your conversations, that we do away with the daytime committee meetings, have all the meetings in the evening, other than occasional here or there. I know you guys like the board tour in September, so we would keep that one, but we would have 2 meetings a month in the evening for most months. And I could bring a calendar to that, to your April meeting to look it over, of the suggested dates, and then the board on May 5th will vote on it.
So would we hold like the first meeting of the month be more informational like our policy and finance meetings are? Or would it be like centric around that? And then our meeting at the end of the month will be our action meeting essentially on those things?
Yeah, I think that they're your meetings, so you guys get to have that discussion. I would recommend that we wouldn't say we would never vote, because occasionally it might behoove us to have, sometimes personnel things come up and we want to hire someone, we don't want to have to wait a month in between those. And so I wouldn't want to commit to it, but I would say one of them would be more of a workshop format.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's a trial and error.
Yeah.
See how it goes. And we don't have to wait, but if something comes up that we have to vote on, but that'll also give them time, if we have more questions, to go back and bring it to the next meeting. But I kind of think just trial and error thing is what's going to play out more than anything else. I would like to get away from the policy and the finance, so. Being separate. And I'd rather have the discussion more among us.
That's what I was going to say. We've had a lot of discussion about how rarely the 7 of us get to meet together.
Just 1 or 2 of us.
And this will provide us almost twice as many opportunities. And Greg's smiling because he's like, and I'm going to be home watching TV.
No, I've been an
Watching
advocate.
VATV.
I've been an advocate of having.
Yeah. You have.
I think you ought to meet weekly.
But the only thing we're actually voting on tonight is whether or not we are going to have our organizational board meeting on Tuesday, May 5th. So I would entertain a motion that we, Board of Education holds their organizational board meeting on Tuesday, May 5th at 6 p.m. at the Rosalie Jones Administration Center.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gaspar, second by Stoops. Kit, would you call the roll?
Blakely?
Yes.
Gaspar?
Yes.
Indesato? Yes. Locke?
Yes.
Stutes?
Yes.
Hodge?
Yes.
Yes. And now Dr. Mann will be talking about tax anticipation warrants.
Good evening, everybody. Now for the exciting portion, right? So as you can see in the agenda, even though we are predicted to have a surplus budget, we are at the time of the year where our cash flow starts to get strained. 2 particular things I wanted to point out for why we have the action before you tonight. The first is that the reason we have this on the March meeting, as we did last year, but with a surplus, we would have hoped to have been able to lessen the amount of time that we need to take out the TAWs for. But we're seeing again the delay in state payments. So Our lowest cash flow point of the year is predicted to be the day after the April board meeting, when those bill checks get dispersed. So we needed to bring this to you at the March meeting so we have enough time to close on the TAWs prior to that board meeting. The second thing is, as I mentioned in the agenda item, the unknown amount of Kane County tax distributions. They've been improving every year, and we have no reason to believe that they wouldn't. But we cannot count on how much taxes they'll be able to distribute during the month of May, which is why we're still asking for the amount of $8 million. Our assumptions put us more in the $6 million range, but because we just don't know how much they're going to send, we're asking to stay at the $8 million range, just to provide us some added contingency there, so we don't run out of cash during the month of June.
But
So-
remind me, Chris,
Yes.
we issue for the full amount because of that uncertainty, so we don't
Exactly.
wait.
Yes, we have issued term sheets. We don't yet know the final interest rates. Last year, they came in at 0.65% interest, which is very competitive, that we were able to get by selling directly to other school districts and government agencies. This year, we do expect the interest rates to be a little bit higher. There's just been a little general, increase in rates, not significantly, but we do estimate about $20,000 in interest costs on top of the $7,500 cost of issuance for the TAWs. So we think we will close around April 10th, so the money will be deposited, and we will repay the TAWs with the larger tax distribution during the month of June. So we will not have any short-term debt on our annual financial report. It will be fully repaid.
Do you foresee this being broken up into, two purchases like we've had over the past couple of years, or?
It's completely depends on the term sheets that we get back. We'll know by Friday. The term sheets are due on Thursday, so we expect to be able to award by the end of Friday, and hopefully the president and secretary and treasurer of the board will all be able to sign off and accept. This is a parameters resolution, so you are approving, I hope you approve, the issuance of $8 million with an interest rate not to exceed 2%. We don't see any way that the interest rate will get near that, but that's the parameter you're approving.
Questions? No? All right, then I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $8 million taxable tax anticipation warrants in anticipation of the collection of taxes levied for the year 2014 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Impastato, second by Stoops. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Blakely? Yes. Gaspar?
Yes.
Impastato?
Yes.
Locke?
Yes.
Stoops?
Yes.
Hodge?
Yes.
Drummond?
Yes. All right. Move ahead on the tax anticipation warrants. The next item on our agenda is a resolution authorizing participation in custodial arrangements. Dr. Mann, let's keep us awake and excited this late at night.
And the irony is not lost that right after we approved the issuance of short-term debt because we are running low on cash, that we are looking at an investment agreement. However, we wanted to get this in place long before the June taxes come in. Because right now we're dealing with the most stressful time of our cash flow, but in just a few months, we are approaching the month of June, which is when we make our longest investments of the year. So as you can read in board docs in the agenda item, this is a new program that's been developed by PMA in conjunction with MB Financial. I go into detail about the stresses that have been started to put on some of the banks that would normally buy up our investments. As to why they may be getting out of the municipal and school district markets, because if we are not going to be FDIC insured at $250,000, they have to be fully collateralized, and the requirements from Basel III, which is one of the financial regulations, has made some people just decide to leave this market. So by entering into this custodial arrangement, PMA will be able to broker our investments with MB Financial, and then they will be able to pull those together into a larger investment block for banks to purchase. All of our investments will still be $250,000 each, so they will be fully insured by the federal government. So the safety of our principal is utmost and will be guaranteed. but this will keep us in the market for some of the banks that otherwise may be pulling out.
Questions or verifications on that?
Seems like an interesting program. As long as we're insured.
Right, that's the purpose. All right, then I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution authorizing participation in custodial arrangements as presented.
So
moved by Locke.
Second.
Second by Stoops. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Impastato.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Dremel.
Yes. Okay, moving on, we are now going to discuss STEM school updates.
Last month, the board approved a resolution that allowed us to join the Aurora University STEM Partnership School. And so we have some updates to provide you, and we would ask at the end of this presentation that we will be asking for your approval of the joint agreement for the STEM school. So since we last met and talked about the STEM school, the STEM school is governed by a governing board that's made up of now 5 members, and they're the 4 school superintendents plus a university representative. So the governing board met, and we talked about the way that the students from Batavia would be stepping into the STEM school. And there were a few different scenarios presented, and the one that the board ended up voting on for how the students from Batavia will enter the STEM school next year is the 50 spots will be distributed among, as evenly as they can be, among the 6th grade levels for Batavia. So we will have 9 spots at the 3rd grade level. So our current 2nd graders, 9 of them will be eligible to go to the STEM school. There'll be 8 spots at the 4th and 5th grade level each, 9 spots at 6th grade, and 8 spots at 7th and 8th grade. And the reason that we thought that this would be beneficial, that I thought that this would be beneficial for Batavia, but also the other districts agreed that it works with their students as well, is because we would be able to retain the 25-to-1 teacher ratio at the STEM school. So in grades 3 through 5, there will be 100 students. There will be 100 students and 4 teachers. So there will be, each teacher will have 25 students. So each student has 1 teacher of record. There will be groups of 25. But within that day, it will be a little bit more fluid, and students will be grouped based on where they are for that particular subject. So in math, it'll follow more of what I would call a middle school schedule, where they will travel, or the teachers will travel to the students, or the students might be moving throughout the day for their different classes. So they'll retain the 25-to-1 ratio, but the students will be meeting with different teachers and different students throughout the day. And they felt like that was a benefit for all the students because they would be able to level the, for example, I'll just go to math. So the students in grades 3 through 5 didn't fall into, currently at the STEM school, they didn't fall into 3 easy grade levels worth of math. And so they felt that having 4 teachers at that grade, between the grades 3 through 5, they can have 4 different math levels in those grades, similar with grades 6 through 8. Questions about the stepping in of the Batavia students?
That's not part of our actual agreement, so that's just an understanding.
Information, right.
Right, and we put it out there, they couldn't change it later on us.
Correct.
What if we're unable to fill certain enrollment requirements per grade level?
Then there are students, 1,000 of them on the waiting list, and so someone from another district would come in.
So we can, in theory, not fulfill all 50 positions.
Correct.
Will we be able to maintain that 50 slots onward, or are we going to be pegged at 48 if we don't fill 2?
That's a great question. So one of the reasons that this model of us stepping in works so nicely is if we just targeted 2 grade levels and said, all right, 3rd graders and 6th graders, we're just going to put kids in there, then that would mean our current 2nd graders and 5th graders would be eligible, but then the next 2 grade levels behind them would never be eligible.
Mm-hmm.
So our current kindergartners and 1st graders. So we would every year they would try to make it as close to 50 kids from Batavia. So once the 8th grade class graduates, then they would, distribute the 3rd grade spots accordingly. So if we
might get more
right,
to
we
make our 50.
might get more so that it would even out then.
Okay.
So every year in this model, if we did fill all 8 and 9 seats at every grade level, every year we would fill 8 or 9 at the 3rd grade level.
Okay, so you mean so if we have 8 spots at 7th and 8th grade, then next year after our 8th graders graduate and come back to our high school, then we get 8 spots automatically in 3rd grade?
Exactly.
Okay.
So that was another reason this model is so attractive, so that all of the Batavia students, there would be a group from every grade level that would be
Yeah,
eligible.
I like that it maintains continuity of our coverage among all the grade levels.
Mm-hmm.
Do you anticipate us having any trouble filling our 50 spots?
I'm not sure. We haven't had the parent night in Batavia, and so I think that after that's this Thursday night that we're going to talk about in a minute. But I think we'll start to see quite a few applications. I think people are holding onto their applications, waiting to see that parent night. They want to hear from the STEM school what they have to offer.
Are they able to turn them in already? When do we
Yeah,
start
they have.
collecting?
So we have
Okay.
started collecting.
Okay.
So the STEM school governs how the applications are collected. So they have to be turned into the homeroom teacher in grades 3 through 5 and their science teacher in grades 6 through 8. So we haven't had that many yet, but we anticipate they will come rolling in after Thursday.
I'm sorry, did you bring up teacher participation in this yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
I was still on the students. We do have one person, Brad and I are both fielding some of the questions, I would say, but we also designated Nikki Kitzmiller from the middle school. If you go on our website, her email address is there to provide some information as well. We thought we needed one more liaison, and she's gone over and met with them and is able to, she's been getting quite a few questions, so I know that there's interest out there because she's been answering emails. A lot of questions about the busing, which we don't have yet because we have to see where the students are. People want to know how long their children will be on a bus. And so it depends on the distribution of the students around the town.
How have we rolled out the communication? What's the communication plan to get this to every single parent in the district and every single student so that they can't come and say, I didn't know anything about this?
Are you looking at my notes? That's our next topic. I was going to turn it over to Sue
I'm
to
sorry, I
talk
did
about
not, so.
what we've done so far to communicate. And then we
call me
still plan to
transition.
talk about the teachers.
Sorry.
No, it's a really good question. And yes, we do have a communication plan. And a lot of it has been done so far. Some of the things that we have done is put out a press release. It was picked up in Chicago's Trib Local and the Chronicle this week, which is good. We put out a messenger to all parents in the school district on March 16th. It's been in backpack mail on March 19th. It was in district e-news on March 19th. Brad did a segment on BATV on March 16th, which aired on March 20th. We sent out a notice to all principals and all PTO presidents to put it in their newsletters, which they've been doing too, which is another way to definitely hit home. We are going to be putting an article in Neighbors Magazine, this little aftermath in the May June issue to tell the community what's going on with the STEM school so that they're aware, especially everyone outside of the district will be more in tune with what's going on with that. It's on our website right now, it's on the home page. It's actually a news article that's on all school sites too, so it hits at every site that you go on in our district. And I've been trying to hammer social media every single day with it, Facebook, Twitter. And we'll continue to do so, especially on Thursday morning, Wednesday night, when the district has their parent night on Thursday night. But letting parents know that throughout this whole week that they could have gone Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, and Thursday night to a parent meeting with all participating districts.
Parents are invited to all the parent information nights. Ours is this Thursday at 7 o'clock at the Batavia Fine Arts Center. So any parent or community member that wants to learn more about that is invited to that event at the Fine Arts Center. There will be representatives from the STEM school, as well as some of the corporate partners there to talk about the STEM school experience, to give parents and students a little bit more information about what it's like to attend the STEM school. We'll have copies of the parent letter of interest there as well for people to pick up that they can return to the classroom teacher. The STEM school is scheduled on March 28th. An open house at the Aurora STEM School, so families can go visit the actual school. It'll be open for them to visit during that time, to take a look at it if they, I know a lot of families have stopped by already. That's what I've heard. So those are a couple of great parent events coming up very quickly, part of this process, so parents can learn more if this is make this work. But in listening to the STEM school teachers and looking at longevity here, we felt that the 8 or 9 gives us some at each grade level. We realized that, like the 8th grade level, that there is a group of students who are motivated to learn math and science. It's a passion of theirs, and it might be an opportunity for just 1 year. And it may give them a leg up in competitive application stage.
And another thing, that model there, the 3rd and the 4th grade model, that would put 5 teachers at the grade 3 through 5 level, and we would then, the STEM school would still just have the 3 teachers at the upper levels, and they wouldn't be able to differentiate as much as they would like.
I had the same concern with the 7th, 6th, and 7th graders going into 7th and 8th grade. And, Lisa explained to me the whole situation about the procedure and all that. But I'm gonna, on the agreement, I'm just gonna follow my principle from the last vote for this one and vote no. And from this point on, I will then look at it once we're in place to see how everything goes for it. I know what in April we have the money part, or the financial part to this.
I'll get to that in a minute.
Okay, so, or whenever, but I'm just so that my fellow board members know where I'm gonna stand on this, is just that it's my, the principle on, and I made all my statements the last month and all that, so it's just so everybody understands.
So this Thursday, we do have at the Batavia Fine Arts Center, the 7 o'clock parent meeting, and after school at 4 o'clock right here in this room, we will have a meeting for interested teachers. And we do know that we have more teachers interested than we would have the opportunity to send to the STEM school. So we'll talk to them about the process. The STEM, the Aurora University, Dr. Sherry Eagle will be here to talk to them, as will a teacher from a current STEM school teacher will be here to talk to those candidates on this Thursday. And our preference would be to send one at the grades 3 through 5 and one at the grade, one current middle school teacher and one teacher from the elementary grades.
Would it matter what grade they are?
No.
Would it matter if it's a 3rd grade teacher or a 5th grade teacher?
No.
Not from that standpoint?
Is it going to be our choice, or is it going to be?
It's very hard to choose.
We do the screening. We hope to have, or we will have some help from the STEM school in the interview process, but then the STEM board of directors approves the 2 people.
Okay.
How do they handle substitutes? I mean,
They have subs.
do they have subs?
They do. The budget and the joint agreement. So you did pass the resolution, and then the next step would be to approve the joint agreement. That's our operating principles. And so you saw a draft in there in February. I put it back in there because it wasn't quite ready, and I got it today. So we did upload the current joint agreement. And if you notice, the joint agreement refers to Exhibit B, which is a preliminary budget. So there is a draft budget that's attached as well that we have blown up for you. That I'll show when it's time to talk about the budget. So the joint agreement, let me first walk you through the changes, and they were extremely minimal. So the board's attorney did look over the joint agreement back in February, the draft, which it wasn't a draft, it was the joint agreement that currently exists. And I answered his questions and he didn't have any concerns with that. So the new one that was just uploaded this afternoon, it's up in the public part of board docs. The only changes are on page 1, where they added Batavia. Page 3, they added Batavia. And page 5, it gave a number of superintendents that composed, it talked about the number of superintendents on the governing board, and instead of putting a specific number, they changed it to say there will be as many, the superintendents of each of the school districts will be on the governing board, instead of saying there will be 3 superintendents, because now there's 4. Those are the only changes, and then they added a signature page for Batavia. So before we talk about the finances, does anyone have questions about the joint agreement itself? I know John had a question, so I'll point that one out. On Articles 10 and 11, the withdrawal and the dissolution. So if one district decides to withdraw, there's a process for that. But if 3 or more districts decide to withdraw, the STEM school has to be disbanded, and that's what the Article 11 talks about. And then this board would actually vote on the dissolution of the STEM school. It would be dissolved, and 3/5 of the boards would have to agree to dissolve it. Any other questions on the joint agreement?
Just a clarification on the selection of students. In their agreement, it says that applicants will be selected for enrollment based on admission criteria that focuses on academic proficiency and talents in science and mathematics. And we have regularly stressed that it's not a gifted program. And I wanted to confirm that our expectation is that unless we have some reason to think that a student just would not be able to perform at the STEM school, our intent is to take any application and put them in any given lottery that we have.
Correct. Thank you for the clarification. So the students get rated by their classroom teacher, so that's part of the law or the governing board's decision that the classroom teacher will rate the students. And the matrix asks for some standardized testing, but also how the students their cooperative skills are one thing. Are they able to cooperate? So that would be something that is very important to the STEM school. They found that the students who do, there are a few students who are struggling, and it's because they don't want to work with other students. And so that would be something that after the matrix is filled out, if a teacher or a principal has a concern about the student's ability to work well with others, they would call in the family and talk about whether or not it's the best placement for them. But our hope would be that every student who applied would be in the lottery.
And it's not based on an academic cutoff, it's based on more of a social emotional success.
There are recommendations for cutoff scores, but unless it was something that we really felt like we were setting up the student for failure, I think we would want to have a conversation if we felt it wasn't a good fit academically. But our hope would be that every student who has an interest is allowed in the lottery.
Okay, thanks. And it's still too small for me.
I know. Kathy blew this up as much as she could.
I appreciate the effort, Katie. Now can you come and read them to me?
So when we talked about the budget for the STEM school, we talked about it in 3 pieces. And one piece would be like a disbursement, a check that you would write over to Aurora University. One piece would be staffing, and then the third piece would be transportation. So what you see on this piece of paper here would be the bottom line. This is a draft, and it really has not been approved yet. And so, but because I didn't want you approving a joint agreement that referred to a draft budget without seeing what it would possibly look like, I advocated that we put this out to you today. So they just made some adjustments, and the CFOs met last week to talk about it, but it is not approved yet. So I would consider this to be the maximum amount that you would expect. That bottom, that first column is Batavia, so that bottom number, the 101,000, that would be a check that we would expect to write. And that's based on us sending over teachers. I'll talk about that in a minute. It doesn't count transportation. And you could see that the other districts are, they'll be putting in about $9,400 less because they have a credit, because every year the STEM school asks each school to give a 10% contingency, but at the end of the year, if it's not used, it gets returned. So you could expect that the 10% contingency that you see on that budget, which is about $8,000, if the STEM school stays to their budget, which we would hope that we would.
They said they're not on track to have to use any contingency so far this year.
So we're giving an extra $8,000 next year that we would expect back the following year if they stayed on budget. So out of your $101,000 that you'd be sending over, you would expect $8,000 of that to be credited back the following year if the STEM school stayed to the budget.
So we're not technically paying more, it's just that we don't have the credit because we didn't pay an extra $9,000 last year.
And there's a possibility that in line 13, where it says lease of copier, student, teacher, school office technology, if we send our students with Chromebooks from the digital learning plan that you were talking about earlier this evening, that line item for us would get reduced because they would not need to lease computers for us. We would be sending our students. So it's possible that our total cost may end up being right in line with everybody else's.
So this is a draft budget. I can't say that enough because there's some things like Chris just mentioned with the Chromebooks that since our students will be bringing their Chromebooks, that part will come down. Also, this planned for 12 FTE, so the governing board will be meeting on April 6th to talk about how many FTE to actually allocate to the STEM school. So if it is 12 FTE, each district would be responsible for 3 FTE. Since we're only sending over 2, then we would be responsible for reimbursing whatever district sent more than 3 FTE. So I want to pause there for a minute to see if you have questions, but I do have to say that 12 will be the maximum number of FTE. We'll be advocating that we only staff the STEM school for how many of our teachers are needed. So for example, if we can run that school with 10 FTE, that means Batavia would owe 2.5 FTE. Since we're sending over 2, that means we would still owe a half of an FTE that we'd have to pay whatever district, most likely West Aurora, since it's they have the closest teachers. So the art teachers and the music teachers that they would send over, we would need to reimburse them if they're sending more FTE than we are. So it could be another, if we had to reimburse a half of an FTE, you could see the rate that's used is the $75,000.
So it could be another 30 on top of this, approximately.
It could be $75,000 extra if the STEM board agrees to staff it with 12 FTE. Okay. But that would be the maximum, and we aren't necessarily advocating that they would need 12 FTE.
Oh, but this actually already takes into account, but this is...
Right, but then they gave us a credit of
3.
Right. So the way that they have this presented isn't exactly the way that we talked about it with the 3 pots. So I'll tell you that is the $101,000 is that first pot, the check that we would write. The staffing is our 2 staff members that we would send over. That's the other part. And transportation you don't see here, but they would approximate $591 a person.
Yeah, there is a line here, but it's netted out of that bottom number that you see with the 101.
So it's $30,141. Is it
That's what the STEM school estimated on an average.
Oh, okay.
We still don't know how many routes we will need, so we know how much it would cost per route for us, but we don't know how many routes we'll need to transport our students.
So we need to add to that bottom line number, though, up to $75,000, depending on how many teachers are staffed at the STEM school. Because it has to be equal among all the districts. So if some districts are sending more staff members than we are, then we would reimburse them for sending extra staff members over. So the maximum check that you would write, the maximum would be the $176 then if we added 75 to that.
But that's not including transportation?
Right, that's the third bucket.
Well, we would take out the 30,141 from the max 176,343.
No, because they already took it out.
No, the 101 at the bottom is already, transportation has been taken out of that.
Okay.
It's in the 360, it's not in the 101, right? Right.
Yes.
Okay. And am I missing where the 2 full-time teachers are shown?
So where
I
do
don't
our
think they show
actual,
you where the two,
Right.
oh, they did at the very top, the 241. The 229, that top number, that's what they credited us. The 229,500. They're assuming everybody gives the same FTE. So if we don't all give the same FTE, that will fluctuate.
okay.
Okay, so it's in there.
But also, if the school isn't staffed with 12 FTE, then all of those numbers will go down.
But no matter what, it's going to be higher than this 101 rate.
Yes. So originally when we presented this at the financial workshop on February 7th, calling the district segments. When we presented this on February 7th, we showed you what it would look like in we worked it into a budget scenario, and the number that we chose was 180, I
Yeah, we
believe.
had 100 for the tuition check and 80 for transportation is what we had budgeted at that time.
And now we're saying it could be up to 175 in tuition plus.
Right, so we would need to go back and sharpen our pencils and figure out where that would come out of for next year.
That assumes 2 routes at that point, with a little contingency there.
Second, I know it's not going to affect this grid here, but I'm just curious if the students are still our students.
Correct.
So will they be paying the school fees?
They pay the fees to us.
So they will be paying the regular school fees to us, even though they're hanging down there?
Correct.
Okay,
The state funding stays with us, school fees stay with us.
okay.
Their test scores stay with us?
They do.
Do you know approximately how much we spend on the Fox Valley Career Center every year?
Varies based on how many students.
Right.
Like last year, I think we ended at like 180,000. This year, we're on track for more like 275,000. It just
And
based
that
on
doesn't include
enrollments.
transportation also, that's just
Yes.
the check that we write.
Yeah, that's just the
Do we
tuition.
transport them?
We do a bus,
We have a shuttle bus.
2 bus routes a day.
And that's one block
And it's
per
one
day?
block a day, but they're actually gone for about a block and a half when you count the bus ride.
Travel time.
Right.
And we don't bring anything back from the Fox Valley Career Center, right? I mean, I think it's really valuable programming, but we don't bring programming back that we're able to roll into high school.
Correct.
There's not professional development that we're getting from being members of the Fox Valley Career Center. There's not collaboration opportunities from being a member of that. It's very specific, does this for our students and.
Right.
Okay.
Sorry, I overestimated. 256 is this year's number where we ended for Fox Valley, 256,000.
Plus transportation.
Yes.
Do the students pay more to take the classes over there?
No, they have, if there are material fees, like if a student's in cosmetology, they have to buy their own kits, and that would be an extra fee. It is expensive.
It's like normal course fees that we would have for our own
But
courses.
there's no tuition.
But some of those courses are dual credit, so they can actually pay tuition to Wabanzi and get dual credit on it, which is
Oh, I
a
think.
lot cheaper than credit hours at Wabanzi.
I think they're great. I just, you know, as I'm looking at these numbers and I'm trying to compare what we're doing and opportunities that we're providing. Yeah.
So again, that's a maximum number. There are some things that could bring it down, less staffing. The Chromebooks, if we don't use all of our seats, then the other districts would buy them. So that would also be a credit that we would get. a per student credit.
So when do you think we'll have a final number? Like an
The STEM board would be meeting again on April 6th, and I would hope we could come to agreement on the staffing that day.
Okay.
So that is the maximum amount that you could expect, is what you see there.
If they buy our seats, do we lose them forever?
As the kids matriculate out, we get the spots back again. So as the third graders, or as the eighth graders leave, they'll readjust the third grade.
Okay. So it depends on what grade we lose the seat in, how fast we get it back.
Right, because they wouldn't just put that kid in for a year, they would let them stay.
Any questions?
Thank you. So you would be voting on the joint agreement then at some point in the future, just like you vote on the Fox Valley check that we would send, the Fox Valley Career Center check, that would come due at some point in the future as a bill.
Questions on the agreement, on the finances? Okay, then I would entertain a motion to approve the joint agreement for the John C. Dunham STEM Partnership School.
Second.
Moved by Impastato, second by Locke. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
No.
Impastato. Locke.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Hodge.
No.
Dunn.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thanks, Kathy. Next, we'd like to move on to administration comments.
Okay, so we started this meeting with about 45 minutes of celebration, and I think that we get contacted all the time by all these people saying the great things that they're doing, and they want to share it with you. I know I get emails as well. I got an email this week from a proud parent. 2 of our middle school students have been accepted into the Honors Junior Choir for 2015. They will go to Carnegie Hall in June. That would be Maisie Sweeney and Colin Callahan.
Oh, wow.
I know, that's exciting. But
exciting.
Sue gets contacted all the time about celebrations, and it's hard to say no because there's so much that it really is snowballing, and people are so proud of all the work that's going on. Another celebration that I have is I heard about some great research this week. At the high school, we measure, we talked about the Citizens Advisory Committee and reporting back on some of those soft skills that are so important for our students. And there was some research that I read this week that showed that our measurements at our high school, our collaborative and responsible learner characteristics that our teachers report on, that actually helps predict success on the ACT math. So when there's a correlation between how students are doing on those soft skills and their ACT math, and the research that I heard about was Joanne Smith. She defended her dissertation. She's a doctor. So that's very exciting that she took data from a district very like ours and is able to apply it here in our district to show that what our teachers are measuring really does. There is a correlation between that and their performance. So congratulations to Joanne. It was great research.
That's funny that it was about math. Love it. All right, board comments. So we will start down with Melanie tonight.
I just like to say thank Amy. You're doing a great job in growing your job and reaching out to the community and tying it all together, because that's what makes our community great. Our schools are our foundation of our community, and you're tying it all together. So it's very hard to take a new job and grow it, and you're doing a fabulous job. So congratulations. And you're doing it with a smile on your face every day, every time I see you. So thank you so much. Also, I just want to say thank you to everybody. It's been a long couple of months, so I just want to say thank you for all the support. And Sue, you're doing a great job. I would say one of the weakest things when I came onto the board was the communication, and I can't say that it's gotten so much better. So you're also doing a great job, and congratulations.
Thanks, Melanie. Jason?
Yeah, I got a couple things to go through. First, I wanted to congratulate Amy Nelson as well. You've done a great job with the outreach program, so thank you for all the work you do. I also wanted to extend congratulations to Pat Brown and Rob Schmidt for their energy management and cost savings. That's pretty awesome to hear. The diligence of their work bringing savings back to our district. Great congratulations to Julia Schaefer for her National Citizenship Education Teachers Award from the local VFW. It's a great award. Wanted to bring up that back on the 14th at JB Nelson, we had a Watchdogs Dad and Donuts Day, and it was a great success. I want to thank Matt Jeffrey for helping me coordinate that as well. I think we had about 75 people total and about 100 donuts eaten. I had to make a run to Dimples for another batch, so it was pretty cool. Yeah. Wanted to thank the boosters for their support for the athletics department and the uniforms. That's a pretty great thing to see them behind that. Wanted to congratulate Dominic on all the great work he does with the BFAC. It's real commendable what he does for our district and for our community, and brings great programming to our area. Wanted to wish good luck to all the candidates in their forum tomorrow. Is that tomorrow? Thursday? Tomorrow? Well, I'll be there anyways. So that's pretty cool. And lastly, I just wanted to clarify a point that was brought up earlier by Mr. Dinwiddie. I wish he was still here. In his understanding of possible condemnation of our building and the new maintenance facility, I want to point back to 2 city council meetings, one on January 5th, one on January 20th, when this was originally brought up. Initially, it has to do with the TIF district that they're trying to create over on Main Street, and I believe it's Houston Street as well. It wasn't specifically directed towards school district or that this building was being targeted for this, but it was brought up by some of the city councilmen and aldermen that there might be an eminent domain provision that they were thinking about if they wanted to go through with realigning streets. It was a very short comment that was made in that meeting. It wasn't anything that was actionable. They just wanted to bring it up, and it didn't seem like it was something that was going to be too accepted. And also, they did bring up that if that was ever a case, worst case scenario for us is that the city would have to give us a like-kind facility in order to replace that building. So we're not pumping anything into that building that we're not going to be getting back out in return. It's not something that's an action item or anything like that. It was simply brought up in conversation, which once I heard it, I did share with our superintendent as well. So I don't really want this to become more of an issue than what it really is. It's just a molehill. It's not a mountain. So I just wanted to clarify that point. And go Bulldogs.
Thanks, Jason. I just want to say congratulations, Joanne. I know how hard you've worked and done a great job. And I want to thank Pat. He took me on a tour of the new maintenance facility today. And for anyone who has been at the old maintenance shed and to see what the new facility is like, it's night and day. And
do you have to work under running water anymore?
No, there's no running water. It's not raining or snowing inside the building. So
thanks, Pat.
I think everyone's going to be quite happy. Safe, which is the utmost concern and importance. So it was just nice to see the progress being made over there, and some good work is being done. And I think everybody's going to be happy when they finally move into their new home. So that's about it.
Thanks, Sid. Greg?
Again, thanks, Amy, for bringing forth all those that wonderful news. And again, it's a reflection on the great community that I've had been truly blessed in my life to be able to live in and share with everyone in this community. I want to congratulate Julia Schaefer on the Teacher of the Year. That was an awesome accomplishment, and I think it's great to see that, and another great celebration. Regarding my vote, it's just that original conviction. I just wanted to stay consistent with my vote. Congratulations, Joanne. That's awesome on your doctorate. I want to wish everybody luck in the coming election, and please get out and vote. Your vote does count. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Hall of Honor, that April 1st, we will be having a press release announcing the new class, I guess.
They're coming in April to talk about it.
Yeah.
Celebrate.
So, part of our celebration there. So, that's exciting news. You'll hear about the class that will be inducted there, and all that's coming together. That's really exciting to be seeing that happening. But again, tonight was truly a celebration of a lot of work that's taken. People have done a lot of work and put a lot of sweat equity into, and we're starting to see the results of such, and I really appreciate what everybody does. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Tina.
Congratulations to everyone, and Amy, my friend, great job. Plaque, thank you so much, Steve and Colleen, and I know some of your staff there. It's a great committee that I'm happy to be a part of, and they do great work, so thanks for coming tonight. And you guys heard there's a vote coming up, and so I just want to say that it is always important to exercise your right to vote. There are and a lot of things out there that you're hearing at many different forums and online, and I encourage you to come to any board member that if you have any questions about any of the work we are doing, or if there's any work that you're questioning or hearing something different about, please come to us directly and ask us the question to clarify. It's really easy to say whatever you want to say on these websites that are out there, and I just think it's important when you're going to vote that you know what we as board members are doing. So if you have any questions, I know that all of us have put ourselves out there to answer those questions, and I just hope you get the answer that's correct, not just what you're hearing. So that's just my plug. So vote.
Thanks, Tina. John.
All the thank yous to everyone. I did ask Amy one time, does she ever have a bad day? And I think if she had a bad day, she still has a smile on her face. But congratulations to all. The plaque I thought was very good. Joanne, congratulations. Everybody else. I want to thank everybody at RJAC again, always getting everything out in a timely fashion and answering all the questions. And even though I had a few questions this time, I told Kathy I would not spend a lot of time with our administrators, and I was true to that word this time. Right, Lisa?
It was very efficient.
It was very efficient. Tried to be. I'd like to wish everyone a safe and relaxed spring break, and the staff to be ready for the last 8 weeks of school as if it was the beginning of the school year. So we still have a little bit more time. My wife and I attended a couple events this month, the Batavia High School Fine Arts Festival, and we attended the AP Art Student Show last Friday. It's just amazing what our students do, besides just the academics, the non-core area of the bands and the drama and the art classes and everything. It always amazes me, and I'm always pleased to go to these events whenever I can. The board attended the law conference a couple weeks ago, Saturday. We learned some new updates and parts from the state. Again, thanks Tony for the nice tour of the high school with the technology. It was nice to have a dialogue afterwards. A couple of us attended the IASB division dinner, and we received information on the power of contacting your legislator when there is issues or concerns. And then finally, I want to thank all the candidates that attended the League of Women Voters Forum. It is very important to hear candidates respond to questions. The final forum is tomorrow at the Batavia Library, hosted by the Chamber of Commerce of Batavia from 6 to 8. Please do your civic duty and vote, and don't say it doesn't matter. And I've always said to people when they come complaining to me, did you vote? And if they said no, then I said, I don't want to hear from you. So have a nice day.
There is nothing I can add to what my excellent board members have said, so I will move on. We do have items on the agenda for closed session. There is no action to follow. but I would entertain a motion to enter into closed session to discuss two items. The first being the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of a public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity, and also litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of a particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. I would entertain a motion to enter into closed session to discuss those two things. Moved by Lack.
Second.
Second by Stutes. Kathy, would you call the roll?
Whitman.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Impastato.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Duke.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Drummond.
Yes. All right, adjourning to closed session. No action to follow. All right, anything you want to close?
I know.